bit of that. I like. Oh, yeah. By the way, hello. I'm in the secondary TARDIS console. I'll be doing a saloon show probably midday tomorrow live. Hello to the Aussies. So basically, I'm in the secondary console, a bit like good old Fourth Doctor did. So Sutekh lives. Sutekh returns. He's the coming. He is the god of death. He is Set. He is Satan. Oh, it's exciting stuff. Well, the original visitation of Sutekh and Pyramids of Mars, 1975, certainly was exciting, and we do a special time flash focus on that tonight with a preview of Empire of Death. Nice kind of segue into it. Trying to work out how Sutekh will manifest, what ructions he will reap, and how all this season could be resolved. If that is not enough nostalgia, we have our own memory TARDIS, and we'll nominate our best unit stories of all Doctor Who. And talking of memory TARDISes, we will talk about Tales of the TARDIS and whether it's even necessary. And yes, I know. Every day there's another opinion poll on the UK general election, but we are more bothered every day with more tidbits about the TV ratings of this relaunch of Doctor Who. We share our latest conclusions on that. So settle in and let's get the panel on. My sensorites on this sense for you into orbit with me, okay? So let's see who we can get on first, okay? First of all, I've always got to remember how I kind of get this sorted out. So welcome, Gary. Let's have a look. There he is. Hiya, Gary.
How are you? Hello.
How are you?
How are you? Well, you know, it's been nothing but dust and darkness all week for me, Brendan. So,
well, there you go. I'm
sure this will fix that.
Well, there you go. I'm cheering up with some nice, good old set shots again. I think the one on the left is from Evil of the Daleks. Look at that. Come on.
Yeah.
That's the type.
Of course. That's great. I adore color stills from 60s shows.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
So let's see if I can.
And then is that the on the right? Is that the chase?
I think it is. I always
do when it's on the sand and everything.
I think so. And somebody in the thread tell me if I've got it wrong and it's some part of the Dalek master plan or something.
No,
I know. Anyway, Rachel, good to see you, Queen of the Walk.
Hello. All hail.
Yeah, well, you'll be an empress soon. We're going to get this out the way now because since we're doing Pyramids of Mars tonight, she is going great guns on her channel. You might as well name it again, Rachel.
Chat about it, don't chat about it with me, Rachel, the Queen of the World.
She's been streaming all day. It's not hay fever either. She's been streaming. She's been streaming away. She wants to get to 1K subs. I think she's going to do it. If you haven't subscribed to her channel, do it and then check you've not. Have you subscribed to me? But I think she's going to do it this week. So good luck to you on that one.
Thank you.
And there's your gift. A mechanoid with the Daleks. There you go.
Oh, look at that.
I know. Like Gary said, I don't know what it is. I just look like color shots of the 60s stuff.
Yeah. It looks so weird seeing it in color because I'm so used to seeing these images in black and white as well.
Yeah. That's why I was looking forward to the Daleks in color because I just thought I just want to see it look majestic. I don't care if right, let's have a look. Let's get Jeremy on. Hello, Jeremy.
Hello. I am the servant of Sutekh.
And I'm a termite. That's what Rachel's line is later, that I'm a termite. Smaller channel. There you go for you then. Mr. Sutekh from Northwest there. You've got the good old keys of Marinus. Look at that set on the... I have to say, look at that on the left. Look at those... That's quite a set, isn't it? Because they got out of those little pods, didn't they? Can you see there on the top?
They got out of those little pods?
Yeah.
This is the Keys of Marinus, yeah.
Keys of Marinus. So you can see the man in the rubber gear with Caroline Ford.
Yeah, the evil scuba divers.
Yeah. Actually, we forgot the day.
I forgot the name of those.
It was her birthday the other day, wasn't it, Caroline Ford, actually?
Lord.
It was, yeah.
So I will go and retrieve our last sensorite. Sean, hiya, Sean. I'll get another shot for you. How's about that then? Hartnell with his toy Daleks.
Nice, very, very nice.
I love that one.
Very nice.
Brilliant.
When the lead actor really loved the role and didn't do anything harmful to the fans, eh?
Dreamland, Brendan. You're in dreamland.
But yeah,
Wouldn't
do you know
forget
when I watched
it's
that?
for free.
When I watched that Adventure in Time and Space, and I know it's a drama, but I think Mark Gatiss did a good job on it. I always feel so sorry for William Hartnell. I really do, because bless him, they make him look as though he loved the role, and yet it was kind of
I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he did. He did.
Yes, he did, and he gave what he could. He certainly did a hell of a characterization, because it was nothing like him, was it at all?
There's
Anyway,
that famous shot where behind the scenes where you see him in his Dr. Astrakan hat, surrounded by all the kids, like at an appearance, and he's there with this little Astrakan hat, and you can see that kids just adored him.
Yeah. Well, I said we'll try and have laughs tonight. Maybe laughs just like good old Creature from the Pit. I mean, look at the size of that. And that's the community.
That's Russell T. Davis's favorite shot.
I haven't seen the Creature from the Pit in a long time.
Oh, and you're so busy streaming. I mean, you haven't got time.
Just a year.
So
he's there with Catweasel.
Yes. Oh, yes. What was he called? Organon, I think.
Jeffrey Belden.
Yeah. Right. And so I said we want laughs. Maybe we want a police box coffin. It depends how you feel this week about how things are going.
Yeah, that's yep.
They've got it ready. They've got it ready. I just don't know. I won't ask for recommendations who you want to put in it, but yeah, it's ready. Now, talking about TARDISes, though, you see on the right-hand side, there's obviously we mentioned this on Sunday, the shot from the trailer for Empire of Death. And I know we had a little speculation, but it seems to be everybody is saying it's Harriet, the Harbinger. But it made me just want to ask you, panel, do you find that this interior design for this new TARDIS has been wasted, that it's going to come into its own one day? This is just a misfire? Gary, what do you think now? You've seen it used now.
Well, I think I said on Sunday, first of all, the one on the left, like I said, it looks like to me like a giant Cuisinart with a bug zapper in the middle. But the one on the left, I actually really like the lighting, the red and the green. I think that makes it 1,000 times more effective, even though the jukebox on the right just looks silly there. The rest of it looks kind of really malevolent and dark, but that jukebox just looks silly.
Oh, it's the jukebox, is it?
Yeah.
I couldn't see what it was. I thought it was just part of the it's part of the set. But
what do you think, Rachel? I mean, do you think this has been a misstep, this TARDIS, or just not used, or?
They haven't really used it, have they? They've spent so much money on it. I think somebody said in one of my comments the other day about the unit set being used a lot. Well, they've used that a lot, but they haven't used this a lot. I mean, like a couple of times here and there. I know RTD doesn't really like them to stay in the TARDIS, but it is nice to see it from time to time. They should use it more.
I mean, the thing is, it's so hollow. I mean, it seems to be, this kind of health and safety policy gone mad. We've got guardrails everywhere and loads of ramps. But if you're not disabled, not in a wheelchair, I'm not quite sure what this TARDIS is all about. I really don't know what it's. Skateboarder. Maybe skateboarders would love it, Jeremy.
Possibly, yes.
I think this was designed with bringing back Ruth Madley in mind, I think. Yeah.
A bit dangerous. If she came through that top blooming thing, she'd have to really watch herself. Especially if she misfires one of her rockets. I mean,
you'd have to have a motor-powered wheelchair, wouldn't you, to get up the ramp?
Yes.
I think she has got
Davros. Oh.
I actually just thought of something. Especially for the new Who doctors, the interior has in some way kind of reflected their personality. 11 had that kind of playful, kind of childish. Capaldi was the more kind of serious, studious scholar with the bookshelves, which is still my favorite.
Yeah.
Jodie's was just like a nightmare. And this one, I thought, the one on the left, it's flashy and empty. So I guess that does reflect the current Doctor.
It's style of substance, isn't it? It's hollow, it's heartless,
Yeah.
It's shiny. It looks new. They think it's great. We think it's crap. That shot on the right with "I Am the Night," I can't get over the fact, and I'm not into computer graphics or anything like that, but it looks rendered. Like that person looks like they've been. It looks like a cartoon character.
Yeah.
It's so badly shot.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
you look at it, just looks like I thought it was a shot when I first saw it from, the DVD you got, Rachel. Kind of like one of those, like a reanimated. Jesus, well, the show needs reanimating. The animated, sorry, the animated kind of specials they've been bringing. It looks kind of like that. It doesn't look real. It looks like it's rendered like a cartoon.
You know what,
or
Sean? You're right.
graphics.
That kind of looks like a character options figure.
Like that.
Yeah,
That's kind of
it does.
standing against the.
It does. If I just take this
console.
off for a second, then I'll come back to Melanie.
Probably is.
It looks more like a mannequin. It really, but maybe it's just something about the shot. I don't know, but I know what you're getting at. But just before we move on, hello to the thread that we're alive already. Peter Harrington, I'll come to you in a moment. Melanie Weston investigates. It was made for Shirley. I mean, now it has all that wheelchair access, and there is a shot of. Oh no, there isn't. She is coming back. I know, but Morris firing off rockets in Empire of Death, which we will come to. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Peter Harrington, Morris will definitely have a go in that TARDIS. $5 on it, right? Okay. Well, I need to get money back because I owe Sean 10 for being called homophobic. Yeah. So we'll see if I can retrieve money, Peter. Right.
£10 so far.
Yeah. I mean, there's the original. For God's sake. I mean, let me just show you one more time quickly. That on the left, or would you? I'd prefer that back.
It's smaller as well.
It's tactile, isn't it? It feels, there's no. That's the problem with the new TARDIS. Well, I don't think it's the TARDIS because it's not Doctor Who, but the TARDIS that we're watching now, it's not tactile. They're never in it. It doesn't fly properly. It slides in, which is doing my head in. And it honestly, you kind of there's no. Like the old TARDISes, like obviously I'm just rewatching classic Who, but new Who, like, Eccleston and I think even Tennant used to like whack it with a mallet to get it working. It was flying all over the shop. And it was very much the joke was that, they couldn't quite get it right. And that was great. It felt like something that, was equally powerful but could equally fall apart. And now there's nothing to it. Nothing to it.
It's the joke that they carried on from classic right through into New Who. Yeah. And they've just sort of like disregarded it. It's like,
Well,
unless he wants to date, in which his case, like, come and look at my massive.
Right, well, TARDIS Spider says that's much better. Divining Dragon, it had proper space. The space was used a lot better. Unlike in Daleks in Colour, where they cut the whole food machine section and everything.
And they put furniture in it as well. And had a pull-out bed, which I thought was quite nifty. Yeah.
So did Jodie's TARDIS. Her and Yaz landed on it. Let's not forget that seminal classic scene.
So, Sean, I'm going to move on now to Tales of the TARDIS. Tomorrow, are we all excited? I'm going to ask the thread, I'll ask you, and then we'll move on to Time Flash. So, if you just bear in mind, thread, we're going to spend a few minutes just discussing tomorrow at 8 o'clock, Tales of the TARDIS with Shooty and Millie, leading into a shorter omnibus version with some new special effects of Pyramids of Mars. But by my maths, if you do 3 or 4 minutes with Shooty and Millie, having a pause for battle, as it's called, you're going to have about 1 minute 12 left from a 1 hour 40 show. So they will have gutted about 25 or so minutes out of it. That's what worries me. So, Tales of the TARDIS. Gary, if I started with you, will you be able to see this in America, by the way?
I'll be able to use my VPN to get the iPlayer. But, actually, in this cut down version, it's just going to be called Pyramid of Mars because there's no time for more than one.
Very true. Have you seen those other ones, Gary? Have you seen those other ones?
You know what? I watched the bookends of the new material. I didn't sit through cut down versions of because I have them all on Blu-ray or DVD. I don't need to rewatch the cut down stuff. And you know what? A lot of the especially this one, a lot of this I thought really worked for me. I mean, it induced the emotion that I think they were, going for. This one was kind of, the one with Joe was kind of, but the Davison one and the Peter Purvis, Maureen O'Brien one, some of them, I got to admit, you kind of get choked up a little, with some of this. And then where, Vicky sees the doctor, her doctor off camera at the end. I mean, a lot of this was, I didn't buy that this was just the actors talking to each other. I bought that these were the actual, characters right away. So overall, most of these I thought worked for me.
So without us going into, because we're going to do Pyramids of Mars straight after this, but Gary, before I move on, knowing what they do with this, but knowing that they're going to do a Tales of the TARDIS intro to Pyramids of Mars, but it's going to be shortened quite a way, what are your concerns about the types of choices that are going to be made about what would be taken out?
Well, obviously, I agree with what you said on your saloon yesterday. The idea of Russell T Davies, of all people, rewriting and re-editing Robert Holmes, it's like, that's enough said on the absurdity of that. The fact that they're doing it because they apparently don't think that this story would hold audience's attention for the full length is also absurd. As you said, the fact that they're catering to an audience that can spend all night on the phone or playing games or whatever. It's like, it really is. I mean, it's really kind of a desecration. There's no other way to say it.
To be fair, Gary, you've got to give them credit. If there's any team that know about not holding an audience attention, it's the current Doctor Who showrunner.
Very good.
They ain't holding anybody's attention.
Well, here's a suggestion for the editor's cut, Jeremy. C1003 says there's a part in Pyramids where the Doctor reminds Sarah he's an alien. I bet you that's cut.
They'll cut that line at the beginning as well.
Yes. So, what do you reckon, Jeremy?
I think they probably will cut quite a few scenes, and certainly the scenes where they're trying to escape from the mummy robots, because obviously that doesn't move the narrative along too much. But I think it's just a different way of just telling the story. But at the end of the day, we've still got the original, so we can watch that.
The thing is, my big question, Rachel, is can you see why look, I understand the Tales of the TARDIS for the very reasons Gary was articulating, which is, it's nostalgia. It's nice to see the actors back in role, etc., etc. It's just that there's lots of different choices here. To me, and I'm not piling into RTD. Bringing all of the Doctor Who collection onto iPlayer, good. RTD, I understand this might be his only way he can show us old companions because he wants to just move on. So we either see Vicky on Tales of the TARDIS or you'll never see her. The trouble is, Rachel, with this new Tales of the TARDIS is it's our present cast.
Yes.
And anyway, my question really to you is, can you see what they're trying to do with this one? And you think, go on.
I was wondering if they were trying to make it canon.
Well, that's what worries me, Rachel, because I love all these little bits because I'm a fan. And although I said in my saloon, I've seen Peter Purvis at conventions. If you're lucky enough to go and see them at the conventions, if you aren't lucky enough to go to the conventions, you can see them on the Blu-rays in big interviews, and they can talk about their time. I wasn't happy with the Power of the Doctor, where you see them all sat in a circle and they get to say one line each. That doesn't serve any great nostalgic purposes. So do you think this, the thing is, a memory TARDIS to me, that makes no sense at all. So this is just a nice kind of little, I don't know, what is this? What is this?
The thing is, he was also presented with a couple of issues. And, one of them was obviously completely unavoidable. There is no Liz Sladen anymore. She obviously passed away. So we can't bring Liz back. And Tom Baker's an old man. He may not want to come back at this point. He may have actually had enough. I mean, he is certainly looking very old right now. So I think that presented perhaps an issue. So it's like, well, what do I do? Well, we're bringing back Sutekh anyway. We've already done it, and we've decided to try and tie it, to do a Tales of the TARDIS. Maybe we can put our current Doctor and Millie into it to sort of just tie it together so that we've actually got a Doctor and a companion associated with Sutekh. It seems a bit far-fetched and I'm just trying to be a bit fair there, because obviously Tom's not doing it.
But
what about the
This
other
is
thing,
here.
Rachel? Instead of granted, the actors are getting older for any that are still around. But the other issue is whoever introduces it. Like I said on my saloon, it's like in the old days you had Disney time, didn't you? And you got celebrities interviews, and we get the gist. You get a celebrity introducing the clips, but in this case, why can't it just be full length? What is the necessity to do any butchering of a classic?
Well, the thing is, originally, before I saw the words Tales of the TARDIS the other day, I actually thought it was the full-length version and they were just doing an omnibus, and then I saw it was the Tales of the TARDIS, and I'm like, oh, maybe not. So, I don't know.
1 hour 15 long.
Yeah,
Well,
they're
hang
going
on.
to butcher it.
So sorry, I'm confused as well. So
It's
I
not the same
thought
thing.
that. So have they not? I thought they'd pushed the episodes together and edited it down. Is this is this like a new thing?
They haven't just joined the dots and taken the music out. It's 1 hour 15 in total.
Oh God, that's
The
short.
same length of time as Daleks in colour. So somebody out there on the executive team seems to think 1 hour 15 is all somebody can cope with. When Generation Z love 3 hour movies and Marvel, they game for 8 hours non-stop, and they're on the iPhone all night. But for some reason, when it comes to Doctor Who, you have to give it in a very short, butchered span.
But then that just removes a load of context from the story, doesn't it? I mean, I guess it depends what they put in, but wouldn't it remove a load of context?
Very
well.
well.
Sean, Brendan was right that effectively it's going to because the memory TARDIS stuff tops and tails it. Effectively, that brings it probably around to about 60. An hour, 7 minutes or something. So it's basically removing one whole episode.
Yeah.
I just think I don't. The thing about it is I don't understand the thinking behind making this a Tales from the TARDIS, because it's one thing if you have the concept of departed companions and previous doctors coming in and reuniting, reminiscing about their time together, but to have the brand new doctor and his current companion. Why do they need to come into the memory TARDIS just to talk about, an answer to the question if Ruby says, well, who is Sutekh? Why do they need to go to the memory TARDIS? The whole dynamic of it doesn't work when you're having the current doctor and the current companion. And apparently, I don't know how they're going to fit this within the context of the actual story, while the crisis is going on. Here's what I would have done. I would have basically, if you want to kind of get a marketing gimmick to kind of gin up interest in it, run the whole thing and then just say, well, we got this classic story with new effects. Advertise the new effects, but don't, and then run the whole thing and have that be your hook. That it's the complete story with new effects, something that you can't find on iPlayer. Currently, as part of the Whoniverse. This whole tying it into Tales of the TARDIS just is dumb to me.
Rachel, you wanted definitely to come in then?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It just dawned on me. Ncuti and the others are not allowed to talk about past doctors, so why are they doing this?
Mm.
Because it's dying.
Good point.
It's dying. Dying.
Let's make the point you were saying on our stream on Sunday, and you've made again since, Rachel, about the eyes and the acting when is supposed to be reacting to Sutekh.
Yes. Oh, yes. It bugged me for days. Okay, it's not this particular shot here. It's another shot. So there was no connection. So here it's okay. It's not too bad actually, but there was no connection with one of the shots that he had between his eyes and his mouth, and it bugged me for days after that because I was like, oh, there's something else to it though. And his eyebrows were doing absolutely nothing when I reviewed the image again. Absolutely nothing. And when you're in shock or you're in horror, your eyebrows, they go up. That wasn't happening.
Yeah,
They're
are those his
furrowed
actual
here.
eyebrows,
That's
though?
okay. Sorry?
Are those his actual eyebrows? I'm
What,
just saying,
there?
because sometimes
I
people
would
draw
hope
them
The
on, don't they, and
CGI'd.
stuff like that. I'm just asking the question. I'm genuinely, they might not be his real eyebrows. I mean, do they still say on? Do they still say on fleek, or is that really 2008?
I don't know.
I don't
So
know.
C 1003
don't know.
reckons it's that. I think this, the two mummies squashing the bloke, that'll go.
That'll be cut. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't have death in an RTD. I know we had a sand soldier and all the rest of it, but death is quite rare in Doctor Who.
I think that it was interesting as I was trying to, I rewatched it, the whole thing just before the stream here, and I was trying to just kind of watch it, you know, and enjoy it, which I was, but I was also in my mind thinking, are they going to cut that? Are they going to cut that? They're going to cut that. I'm thinking that all the scenes with the poacher are going to be minimized to maybe like one or two.
Yeah.
Everything with him running around, trying to escape and hitting the barrier and stuff, that's all gone.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that they're going to really reduce all of most of the fourth episode where they're running around with all the puzzles and the traps on Mars. I think that's going to, a lot of that's going to get chopped.
No, they'll keep it. It's just going to become Candy Crush instead.
I do think that part 4 can be cut down. I do.
Mm.
I think it would be terrible to lose the poacher. There's a bit of humor there, but there's also a bit of suspense that you just get a lovely realization that there's some sort of force field there, and you know, I mean, I think it helps to make it.
Oh, Brendan, no, I mean, I'm not saying that the cuts are justified. I'm just saying that if they have to.
Yeah, I agree with you on what I think might happen.
I also think the new effects, I'm going to guess that the new effects is going to be the explosion after she shoots it. When the explosion finally goes off, that's going to be like hugely CGI'd into a big explosion. Wow. And I think maybe when they get inside the pyramid on Mars, you know, the kind of effects on the walls, you know, that kind of lighting effects on the walls, that'll probably be souped up.
Eyes. Sutekh's eyes.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I'll just catch up with one or two of our friends here who've got suggestions. So Peter, the tunnel effect is great to me. Goes with the period. Also, the brown swirls on Mars will be changed, I think. Will that big dog be in it? Do you see, this is it. Because when I was looking back at the Daleks in colour, the dialogue was added and saying Carlids. Exterminate was added. The Cloister Bell sound effect was added that obviously wasn't in the original to try and link it with Who Now. I'm not too sure if that's fair and should be done at all. You know, let's just enjoy the original for what it is. We know that every show develops over time. For God's sake, we're all grown up. We can do that.
It's not about changing it's not about changing the show, though, is it? It's not about making the old one better. It's about desperately tying your rapidly sinking lifeboat to the classic Who that everyone loves and knows, to go, oh, look, we're similar to this. We're valid too. We're not terrible writing and dying ratings and a dying show and an awful writer. We're the same thing. We sound the same. Look, we have the same. It's fickle and people see straight through it. You should leave it alone.
Well, do you know what? I would laugh if the viewing figures for this was sky high. I really would. The irony would be so ironic.
That's very true. That's very true. I was nearly going to say, I don't know what the conclusion would be. No, it's obvious, isn't it, Rachel? I'm going to come back to you with your statistics, Rachel, in a moment, but I'm just going to catch up with TARDIS Travels. Ratings of around 9 to 9. Yes, the ratings were 9 to 11 million. When we do Time Flash in a moment, I'll just confirm that for you.
I was just going to say that the story was edited in 1976 to 60 minutes. So whether they're going to use something like that, I mean, I don't even have got the original video edit from that period or not. I'm not sure.
John Yulden reckons getting explosives will be cut and deactivating the force field. I loved all that. And yes, just like when I was saying this to Gary John, I'm not disagreeing with you. I know. It's any froth, any subplot, any of the extra little bits just to reinforce their situation.
Yeah.
Instead, we're just going to get the straightforward, sort Sutekh out, stop the rocket, end of.
Yeah.
Action Popcast, who I'm hoping to get on one of our panels soon. I massively dislike the whole idea of this, since they're popped apart. I can't even take Shooty as the actual Doctor because he certainly doesn't act like a Doctor. Those are his lines. That's what he's given. I know this is the problem. I'm just going to try. I'm coming back to Rachael in a second. I'm just double checking. I'm looking for any other editing issues. John Yulden again. Let's have a look. They will have the new dog's head appear in the TARDIS at the beginning. I guarantee it. In the original face, it was sinister. They will update the destroyed Earth as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
And they're also going to cut that little interchange at the end where after they send Sutekh back down the time corridor, the Doctor says that he lived about another 7,000 years, and Sarah definitively states, so Sutekh is dead. He's dead. And the Doctor says, at last. They're going to cut that because then that would, put paid to, Russell's, why are you even bringing him back then if he's dead?
And I do think some of I'm saying it's problematic. It's not problematic at all, but it's problematic for some of these people nowadays that some of the Dr. Warlock stuff will be lost. The Scarman brothers and that confusion between, the surviving Scarman brother who's, doesn't understand what's going on with his brother, and maybe the Doctor telling him off. Anything like that, I think is probably. I just think that I can't see what you can. Some Doctor Who stories, there's a lot of corridor rushing around, and sometimes you can see where you can cut it and it wouldn't hurt. Pyramids of Mars, you could maybe take a few bits off episode 4, a little bit of tweaking here and there. I don't think there's any pacing issue. I mean, if you've got an issue with pacing of 25-minute Doctor Who, Pyramids of Mars, I think you've got an issue with television.
They're selling it for a younger audience, basically. I think. Well, that's why they're speeding it up a bit. So,
I get sick of that. I mean, I teach kids that there's no issue. They are people who don't have kids, have never worked with kids, who think they know what kids want, and they don't.
Do you know what the worst thing you can do for young people? Patronize them.
Yeah.
And say to them, "Oh, we're going to speed this up so your minuscule little brains can understand it." It's so out of touch. It's unbelievable. Why do you think people are fleeing for the hills?
These kids do go to the theatre. These kids do go and do stuff. They do watch 3-hour movies. I don't know what this idea is. So just before I come back to Rachael, who's been doing a poll on her channel, can you still add to it, Rachael, or have you closed it now?
Poll is still live. You can still add to it.
Okay. Right. Cool. So I just before I come back to Rachael, she's about to hit 1K subscribers. I guarantee it'll be in the next day or two. And if you can help her, please help her get her there faster. But I'd like some help too. 700 is what we're aiming for at the moment. So please just double check. Have you subscribed? We're churning them out. Not as many as Rachael, I'm sure. But but Rachael, what is the poll looking like at the moment for you?
All right. So I did a poll on my channel. Let me just bring it up now. I was commenting into the chat. So the poll on my channel, I don't know if anyone's okay. We've got 96 votes. I announced them I asked them if they would be watching the Pyramids of Mars Tales of the TARDIS on tomorrow. Excuse me, I cannot talk right now. And 44% have said they are watching, and 56% have said they won't be watching.
I wonder why.
Well, one of them has said because Tom Baker's not in it, which is fair. And some of the others are like, well, I got it on DVD.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is also fair.
Well, since we're talking about what they might do to Pyramids of Mars, we might as well do the time flash. So, if everybody bears with us, I think it is time that we did actually have our time flash focus on Pyramids of Mars. Yep, the starter pistol has been fired on our time flash focus, which I'd be mad not to pick Pyramids of Mars this week. I mean, I'd be like somebody looking in the wrong direction if we picked something else. So, Pyramids of Mars, just to give a précis for anybody who's just joined the human race. Pyramids of Mars, October, November 75. That is classic Doctor Who time, I would say. The nights are drawing in. You're sat there on Saturday night and you're going to get mummies. That's how to do it. And of course, I have to say, I was traumatized because I was trying to get the Target book in the middle there, the original, and the one that I ordered. And when it came through, W.H. Smith's gave me the one on the right, and I was mortified because I wanted the original one. But there you go. Life is hard, and you learn that when you're a kiddie. So,
It's good to see you let go of these things. You don't hold on to them. And get bitter.
this is the time to let it out. So there we go. Pyramids of Mars, as it looked on one of the VHS covers. I've got the other one. I did get the original of the other one. And of course, if anybody doesn't know, we went to a brilliant mansion. I think there were rumors. Was it a pop star's mansion? I can't remember.
Jagger.
Yes, Mick Jagger's.
Star Groves, I think it's called.
And this was the first story since Enemy of the World where it pretended we were abroad for a moment. We were in Egypt when the whole episode starts. Yes, we had mummies everywhere. We had Tom Baker definitely dressed as a mummy. He was dressed as a mummy for that scene. And we had the Osirans and we went all God. You know, RTD didn't get there first. So we had that. And then, of course, and I've got the cast there just in case. There's the original VHS cover, which I know and love. There's some iconic photographs, aren't there? I mean, that one with Tom Baker next to that beautiful sarcophagus, beautiful. The mummy in the woods. I mean, if they're going to butcher anything about some chase sequences, that'd be horrific because I loved some of the shots where you got only the top bit of the mummy side profile and people hiding in tree roots. Fantastic. And then, at the beginning, you know, called back to the house by the organ. Moody Tom Baker in the TARDIS because he's hit middle age. And yes, as I can't remember who said it, part 1, 10.5 million. Part 2, 11.3. Part 3, I think there was a good weather that day, 9.4.
Not
and a football match.
In
And
the 1970s.
There was a Tiddlywinks World Cup final as well. And then part 4, 11.7 million. Yeah, we did EARTHSHOCK last week. That's beating it by 2 million. You know, this is 2 million higher or so on average. So, you know, this was Pyramids of Mars. Now, Gary, do you want to get first digs of what really brought what it brought back to you?
Meh. You know, I guess this is an all right story. You know, nothing great. Oh, I'm kidding. Well, no, of course, this is one of the all-time iconic. I mean, it really is like a Hammer mummy movie, you know, where you have the tropes of, you know, the archaeologist breaking into the tomb when he shouldn't, you know, finding something, and then there's the mysterious Egyptian, you know, who comes back, and you have mummies roaming around. I mean, it's like a great old Hammer mummy movie. A lot of really scary images. The first image of Sutekh in the TARDIS is very scary. You have great things like, you know, the pipe organ, which is just great every time that pipe organ sounds. And then of course, and then images like my personal favorite, as I love when Sutekh's servant arrives at the end and he walks and the carpet is even burning as he walks. That's brilliant. They didn't need to do that, but it just makes the whole thing even more brilliant. And the fact that of course Sutekh's menace comes solely through his voice, you know, since he's trapped sitting the whole time. And you know, you have the soft, measured, articulated cadence of the voice contrasted to what he's actually saying, which again that's just the brilliance of Robert Holmes. The thing about it is that with the I want to comment on the Doctor's outfit. This was the first story that didn't have my personal favorite Fourth Doctor outfit, which was his kind of reddish coat with the brown patches.
Yeah.
This first story where he kind of moved on to a different. I love that original kind of bohemian outfit. But it doesn't take away from the story. I'm just kind of noting it. The last thing I want to note, which is that this story kind of marks the end narratively of, if you go all the way back to Planet of the Spiders, through this story, every story interconnects and leads directly into the next one. So it's like a continuous, it's like it's an arc. I guess you could kind of call it an arc that goes all the way from Pyramids of Mars through this, and then there's kind of like a narrative break after this one. You could fit other stories in, but for like 9 stories, it's a continual kind of chain. And I think that at this point in 72, I think that was just really cool. I love it when shows do that.
Yeah. Rachel, how many times have you seen this, Rachel, do you reckon?
Oh gosh, quite a few times.
So what do you? I mean, I'm leading you, but I think it's because we all know it's a good one. But you know, which bits do you really enjoy? Which bits work for you best?
Oh my goodness, where to start? There's a lot. There are a lot of points about this story that are absolutely fantastic. It is one of my favorites for the Tom Baker era. Not going to lie. One of my favorite bits though is his middle age and where it hits him. It's just that it was like so like moody and gloomy and absolutely brilliant. That just made me laugh. It's one of my favorite bits. Oh goodness me. Where do I begin? Oh my gosh. No overusing of the sonic screwdriver. Great. That's a very small point though. But the utilizing of the actors, I think, in this also is one that is a standout for me. No one was underwritten, no one was overwritten. And I will say that Gabriel Wolf having to sit there in a mask and a costume on a chair for 3 episodes at least, and just talk, and he can't use his facial expressions, he can barely move his head. Like, how hard is that to do? That's incredibly hard. All he's got to rely on is the power of his voice there. So he does it so well, and I'm excited to see him back for doing the voiceover. I will say that was a bonus for them. Look at that costume. It's wonderful, isn't it? Oh gosh, I don't know where to start. I am so sorry. I've got so many notes.
You have a look, and I'll get Jeremy's first impressions. Jeremy, does this take you back, and what vividly do you remember from this the first time, do you reckon?
Well, I remember watching it back in the 70s, first time round on a cold evening, which is, it sort of helps watching it rather than watching it on a summer evening. And I used to record them on cassette tape. So this is one that I do remember recording. But I like lots of the different elements that are in there, you know, the mummies, the fact that it feels like a Hammer horror film. And there's a lot of different elements going on in it, which help to make it a nice, rich story, and it's a classic story as well.
Yeah,
I got it.
Sean, this was your first time watching this, so you know, on this panel thread, we've got people who've watched it many times, and we've got Sean, who this was the first time. So, Sean, what was your impression of Pyramids of Mars?
Very impressed. And I'm not easily impressed. No, it was very, very good. I messaged you straight after saying RTD is going to ruin this. Just leave it alone. If you can't write anything as good, just leave. But no, just to stick with the story for a second. It was just, I mean, right from the off, the beautiful atmospheric opening, the music, just, you know, the world building of it, you know, nothing could be cut. Yes, you could tighten up the pace here and there. Maybe towards the end, I'd agree with you in episode 4, But overall, I mean, I'll get into it later. I've got loads of notes. I just absolutely loved it. I think I've seen the Fourth Doctor the least out of most of them, so kind of get to know him. But and I think I said this before. The thing that I love about the classic Who stories is you can see the kind of Hammer horror. It's a little bit campy, but not over the top, and it just works. It's gothic, but it's played totally straight. Like it's played like it's like this is the world. Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous, but we're leading into it and we know what it is. And Rachel said earlier, you believe all the characters. That's why I don't want to see it cut down, because I love like the poacher who's like running around desperately shooting people and he runs away. And I love the bit between the brothers. Obviously, one brother's trying to save the other, because that's what you would be like if someone was saying to you, "Oh, I'm a Time Lord," and your brother's been abducted. You'd be like, "No, he's gone." Especially 9/11. Oh no, he's not. He's gone away and he's been, taken by some malevolent force. You would try and battle back, and everything makes sense. And the ending's wonderful. It has a really good kind of climax. And as I've said before, I'm not easily impressed by films and things. And you look back and think, you watch some of these classic ones, and I can understand being a kid who wasn't brought up on Doctor Who until it came back, that you understand why it's so beloved. And the more that I watch, the more classic Who I watch, the more annoyed I get of what they've done to it. The more I understand some of the criticisms of the original RTD era, a bit about, Rose, and I kind of get it. But they're just such good stories, and
do you get it?
The need to just... Sorry, mate.
No, I'm going to bring you back into it. Do you get it, Sean, that because if you're new to this, and of course you watch an awful lot of stuff on your channel, which please give a shout out to in a minute, but the pacing, I don't think, is an issue in stuff like this. I think it allows the story to breathe. It allows characters to breathe, and you have to do that. And I think something that the present team seem to be missing completely is, it's not about getting to the end result as fast as you can with a few flashbang wallops. It's to allow us as the audience to actually sympathize with a character, empathize with another, hate another, get into the vibe of this is a dangerous place. You don't have to just say, right, I'll have 2 minutes of a mummy sequence and then we need to get on with finishing the plot. But I want lots of fart jokes and I want to make sure there's a kiss at some point. To you, Sean, when you look at this for your first time, was there a pacing issue, or did you think, no, this works?
Not so much for this one. But I have watched, the little bits of classic Who I watch. There are points where it is old-fashioned and slow, a little bit slow, where you think, oh. But if you've grown up on New Who, like the original 2005 onwards, then it's going to feel that way. But the strength of the stories and the writing carries them. Like, they're not flat. Sorry.
What about this one? Sorry, Sean. Sorry.
Sorry.
On this one, though, did you find it pulled you in?
Oh, absolutely. Because I didn't know what it was. Because genuinely, I was expecting, with the title and how much everybody spoke about how much they loved it, I thought, oh, it's going to be set on Mars, because you would do, especially with the pyramids. You see that, and I thought, oh, because it's going to be set on Mars, it might be similar to, what's the one with the Cybermen where they're on? It's been years since I watched it. Where they're on Mars. What's that one? Sorry,
Moonbase.
I'm thinking the Mondas. Ignore me. Sorry. Anyway, it really works, and I think it suckers you in straight away to the situation. And I just love the fact that it was set in this creepy old house. Like, it's so English it hurts, but at times, which is hilarious. And then you've got these mythical characters. I mean, look at the settings. I love the fact that they have all these beautiful little details, like the little triangles or pyramids, on the back of the mummy suits. I loved how they were very much kind of like the original Imhotep, because I love the new 1999 mummy. So I loved all that about how they're just malevolent. They just don't stop. They'll keep coming after you. They don't have to run. They don't have to shout. They don't have to call you babes or honey. They'll just keep following you, and they'll have you eventually. They'll get you. And I love that. The villain doesn't have to be shouting or dancing.
No.
It's just this. It's the strength in the writing. It comes from the writing. It comes from the direction, and then the performances on top of that. I think I said in the thread earlier that we will forgive You know, when you're watching these old shows, you know, I was born in the early 90s, so this is way before I was born. You watch older stuff and you can forgive the wobbly sets. You can forgive, you know, the limitations.
So,
You can forgive because the
well, yeah,
story and the writing's so good
I,
and you
we were
care about the
finishing.
people.
We were finishing Android Invasion last night, which is not my favourite because it's in a strong season, and you've got terrible CSO in parts. I didn't care, and I still don't care. I just want to. I'm going to bring in Rachel next because I know she's champing at the bit. But I just want to catch up with some of your fantastic comments. Terrified Monk. Tom will always be my doctor. I really don't remember much of it, but I have fond memories of Doctor Who being on PBS at my grandma's house. You see, this is it. We're attaching memory to it, and to butcher it or to risk butchering it is just, it's like trampling on people's memories. C1003, I strapped my hubby down, to view this and torture the person. Okay, he watched it a bit, not a fan, but I can't tell you how many times I said, "Are you my mummy?" Well, what you get on with behind closed doors. Yes, let's have a look. Yes, I've had Peter Harrington mention the acting. I mean, some of the quality acting in it. Yes, we might mention that later. PB props. I had 2 friends who worked on this story. Oh, so that and the fact that it's an absolute classic makes it a little bit special for me. Oh, tell us more, PB props. What did they do? Come on. Because we're going way back now, aren't we? I mean, what did they do on that set? Let's have a look. Action Pop Chat. I'm surprised for Tales of the TARDIS they haven't pulled out the waxwork of Tom Baker like in the 5 Doctors promo. Well, I know, and have him in the con because I find it a twee set. I have to say, I don't. The memory TARDIS to me, I know you can go, oh, isn't it cute? But it makes no logical sense. Let's have a look here. We've got SG. I've seen this countless times. Had it on VHS. Yeah, I've given it away now. Got the unedited VHS in 1994. Yes, priceless. And have the DVD too. And of course, if there's a new version, I dare say we'll get it. Yes, Michael Sheard, Darryl Joyce, polar opposite of Mr. Bronson. He was in Doctor Who more times than I realised. You know, Remembrance of the Daleks, the lot. Talons of Wayne Cheyenne. Love that name. Yes, happy memories for me also from when it aired. I was only 3 at the time. Can you? But I remember vividly the end of episode 1 when he was schmucking. You must have been scared to death. My first real memories of Doctor Who are the Sea Devils coming out of the sea. So for you to be seeing somebody basically steaming with smoke, my God, that's a bit scary for a 3-year-old. But that's why you love Doctor Who. I mean, you're not going to tell your mum and dad you want to go to bed early, are you? Melanie Weston investigates. Those mummies looked very scary and reminded you of the Autons. And remember, I mean, what did the panel think? You know, when they're in the woods, they get faster. You knew they were robots. So there was a sequence when they are actually, you could hear the stomping of the undergrowth, and they are going to catch up with the poacher. They're stomping down. I love that because they weren't just cute mummies. They were androids, and they were going to walk forever, weren't they?
I was impressed by. Sorry, Jeremy. I thought it was impressive. I was watching it thinking, God, the actors or actresses inside there they must have had to watch the footing, because I love, like as you said, you hear the crackling twigs and the snapping as this force is coming after you. It doesn't matter how quick you run. Yeah, I loved it. Sorry, Jeremy. Mate, go on.
I was just going to say it was good. The character called Clements the Poacher.
Yeah,
I love Clements.
Yeah.
And because he's in the background, but we all remember him as kids, and we all remember what happened to him, you can't edit him out.
He got squeezed out.
Yeah, he's going to get squeezed out the more, I bet. Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what happens. C1003, and I'll come to Gary then. Michael Sheard was great to see. Had that face who we struggled to recognise until I saw him interview. Then bang, Empire Strikes Back, of course. Yes, Mr. Bronson, Grange Hill. I mean, Grange Hill was iconic, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was in The Mind of Evil and The Ark, wasn't he?
Yeah. I quite like. I mean, an ensemble cast and also directors bringing back again and again and again. David Mullen, good to see you. I try and keep up with your fantastic essays to me in your YouTube comments. None of the guest casts can ever know just what is happening. They are ordinary people out of their depth, and as we follow them, all doomed. There's no hope for any of them. But isn't it great, David, that rather than edit them out and just have a 40-minute episode like in current Who, we actually go on a journey with a character who might ultimately die, but we go on that little journey, you know, and as a kid, you learn what it's about. You can't always win every fight. You needed to see that these enemies were cruel, hard, menacing. You had to see the manifestation of that. Gary,
Yes.
you know, I mean, you can see some of the comments from the thread, but I'm sure you've got many more about this story.
Well, this is about this quote you have up. I totally agree. The reason that I'll always prefer Classic Who, in addition to the fact that that's where I kind of started, so that's where my love is that it had great writing and acting, which made up for the lower budgeted effects. But for me, that was always a plus, because as an audience, as a young audience member, you kind of like fill in the gaps where the effects themselves kind of like fall down. And if you're there kind of filling in the gaps, you're being engaged more with the story. You're being drawn in more to the story. It becomes more of an interactive thing. You're given the great writing, you're given the great effects, and your mind then makes up given the great stories, given the great acting, and your mind kind of there, you know, makes up the difference in the effects. New Who now, of course, effects budgets are through the roof. So all you need to do is sit there kind of like a sponge, and you don't have to engage. You just have to suck it all up. You're being fed everything you need, effects, et cetera, et cetera. So there's not that same kind of imaginative interaction that I always brought to, watching Classic Who when I was young. I was thinking that, with shots like this, with the poacher getting killed, I was thinking that just like Horror of Fang Rock, no other character except the Doctor and the companion get out of this story alive.
Mm.
Every other character except for the Doctor and Sarah died, just like in Horror of Fang Rock. And, I love the fact that there's a callback to Victoria, although for every single time I watch this story, when he calls her Vicky, I cringe. I'm sorry. It's like, that's not Vicky. No, that was Victoria. And I know that was just kind of, it's not a deal breaker. But I did like the fact that, they're making a callback to a 60s companion. That was great.
Yeah. But you see, as we're talking, we still have concerns about various things that might be cut. Peter Harrington is worrying that reverse shot of Scarman being shot could be cut. What does it add to the story? And of course, the writer in the first place, because it'll have been heavily blooming edited in the first place. And as you know, Robert Holmes had to do a kind of saving job of a script anyway. Yeah, I know. I'm still worrying about that. Hey, B, good to see you. You said you were new to this. Loved Tom Baker's energy, voice, everything, and K9 too. Yeah. Well, Jeremy on our panel here, you'll have to see some of our old streams with. He's got K9. He's got K9 in his house.
He's on the table.
Yeah. But yes, we do. It was our own version of C3PO. But this scene here, as you say, Gary, a lot of these characters we lose through the story, but as a Doctor Who fan watching it when you were younger, I quite liked. I mean, you kind of felt as though you knew this character, Clement. Yeah. I liked the bits of humor. Was it him who saw? It was mentioned in the thread. The mummy got stuck in the man trap, and
that's one of my favorite bits. That bit.
The great thing for this character, and it's going to be sad when he's inevitably cut for this thing tomorrow, is where Holmes gives him just the line, murdering swine. And so you can see this isn't just a selfish poacher. He is actually sorry and angered when he hears these mummies kill the doctor, not the doctor, the other
Scarman,
doctor.
Lawrence Scarman.
And he goes, the murdering swine. And you go, okay, this guy does have a compass. He's not just out there killing rabbits and stuff. So I think that was a great touch.
Yeah.
There's a great line as well, isn't there, where he says to the Doctor something like, about firearms and about a gun. Grab a gun. The doctor says, "I never carry firearms," and he's like, "I meant I shall feel better." Like that
I
really
do,
made me laugh. I thought, yeah, and the fact that I think it's because you think you would be him. Because the majority of people watching this are not going to be like a person with a mansion or a scientist. So you're probably going to be more akin to that, gamekeeper, poacher, or whatever, kind of working class, if you will. So I think there's kind of that in it that you think, I hope I would be a bit plucky like that to be like, right, I'll go grab, this, I'll try and do that. And, it's a good character to follow, because it's nice when in episodes where they don't just stick with the Doctor and the companion, they kind of go off with these characters, because it makes the world feel more real, like more lived in. You care about the people. That's one of the big issues in New Who. I just don't, I just don't care. I don't care who lives. I don't care who dies. And the biggest issue is the Doctor and the companion, because they're boring as whatever. They're just boring.
boring as
and yet Robert Holmes still finds time for kind of humor in this situation. The way that Sarah kind of takes the Mickey out of the Doctor at the beginning of the show with that joke about Victoria and Albert, and then later on that brilliant bit of business where in the pyramid, where the Doctor and Sarah walk through the open door and they see the mummy in there and then immediately spin around and go, that may be my favorite scene in the whole
Apparently
story.
that was an ad lib. Apparently they did it. Apparently it was a skit. Yeah, but I loved it. It's really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And it's good writing, isn't it, to work out how you do this? Because that's a very, I'm not saying other countries don't do it, but that's a very kind of British thing.
And it's
humor. It's humor in the face of certain death. If you don't laugh about it, you'll cry about it. I also like that kind of attitude.
The humor in the Poacher's Shed when they had the gelignite and she threw it down to him, and they joked about sneezing and all the rest of it. There were lovely little touches all the way through, and yet you balance it up with a well-written Robert Holmes. We had time machine and time issues all over this story. He explains, a good writer to explain to the kids the Marconi scope and everything. It's like an SOS. You had very fast lines to, similes, metaphors to quickly go, oh, it's an SOS. Oh, okay, I get it. And just doesn't kill the story. It's not a speech. You get it. That sort of thing I loved. And I didn't know I was going to be an English teacher at the age of 6. But obviously, I do remember lines. And the line when I think he tells off the Doctor, don't be obtuse, man. And, I love the way Tom Baker is given lines to just deliver and eat up. To be moody, to be sulky, to be angry, to be menacing, to be alien, to be cold, to be focused. Come on. In a 4-part story, not too long, there's hardly any flesh. If you want to call the flesh some great dialogue, come on. Rachel here, our actor, you must have. Is there any dialogue you can think of in the Pyramids of Mars that you think, as an actress, you'd have loved to have eaten up?
That's a really good question. Oh gosh, probably be the bit about middle age. No, Tom was very clearly having fun with this. I know. Yeah, there would have been lines of perhaps Sutekh. Obviously, the villains are the ones that are given the best lines because they have the heightened status, so they can already have power to it, and then they can make it even more powerful than what they've actually got. I think one of the best ones, though, is probably showing Sarah Jane the difference between 1911 and 1987, and then telling her if she wants to get off, she could. That was brilliant. I know they did it in this recent series, which makes me suspect that Devil's Cord was actually supposed to have been before The Legend of Ruby Sunday. But I think that would have been perhaps one of the best lines, because it's very calm, it's very cool, it's very collected, but it has enough impact because of her reaction to it as well.
It ups the stakes because we can see they're not just talking about what Sutekh will do. We actually see it.
Yes, and I actually think this is one of the reasons. I'll go into what I wanted to say now, because that ties into with what I wanted to say. With regards to bringing in Sutekh, they didn't hang about with bringing him in. So you knew from episode 1. You just didn't know when you were going to get him, but you knew you were going to get him. So they played off of that. And yes, we get the reveal of Sutekh officially in episode 3, but we see him as what's the word for it? As a projection in the TARDIS with his it's a jackal head, I think he's got in this, isn't he? And then you sort of hear his voice throughout episode 2. You think he's going to be coming down the time space tunnel in episode 2, but it's not. It's the professor whom he's taken over. And is using as a puppet. And it's like, what kind of power actually can overtake the Doctor like that and use the Doctor as a puppet like that? That's scary stuff. And it's also playing off of superstition as well, isn't it? Because obviously Sutekh is a mythological god. This version is the Egyptian version, not the Greek version. And he's well, they tell it in like one line, I think it is, with Sarah Jane. And she says he was imprisoned by his brother Horus. Yeah, so
Sarah, you see, this is it. If you
Sarah's
get
great in this episode.
if you get a decent character, Sarah was a good character because as a journalist, she can have backstory and stuff. She obviously wants to seek out and be her own Nancy Drew, as I said on the Terror of the Zygons one. I was just watching Android Invasion, like I said last night, and she just gets on with it. She does her own research, and then she remembered the village because she'd been there before as a journalist. It just works. So yes, you can easily, as Robert Holmes, give her that line, Rachel, where she gives you the backstory for the kiddies, because I didn't know who Sutekh was, and of course it was said so well because she said, "Well, he could be called Set, he could be called Satan," and you go, "Oh. All right, okay. And you get a history lesson. It's fantastic. Now, I just want to mention Paul Richards, and you've started mentioning this. I love the cliffhangers in this story. And the issue is, of course, when you do an omnibus, you lose that. When I watch an iPlayer episode to episode, I still have the cliffhangers. An omnibus changes the beast, of course. And I think part of the DNA of Doctor Who is the cliffhanger. So as you say, Rachel, you knew Sutekh was around, but the big reveal might come later. And good old Doctor Who can play with you like that, whereas RTD's version is, well, there you go. Just take it.
It was sort of like give you as much information as you possibly can. And then when it gets to the Legend of Ruby Sunday, it's just like a fart because it's like that's the only way I can describe it. Because
for me, Sarah's
sorry.
Oh no!
I was just going to just for you come in. So Sutekh's gift of death, the smoking end of episode 1. Episode 2 ended with the mummy's blurred face coming towards the camera. Great shot, about to go around Sarah's neck. And the end of episode 3 was the glare of green eyes as the Doctor was trapped. Sorry, Gary.
Did you get that from my notes?
I was just going to say, for me, Sarah's best line in this is where they're getting set up, around the rocket and stuff. And the Doctor's kind of bugging her about, you only get one shot. And she just says, flat out, matter of fact, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But that seems
I love that line read, because you can imagine Sarah Jane, a young Sarah Jane learning how to be proficient on firearms or shooting with the rifle, whatever. It's like that totally, for me, fit in with her character. It's like she was more bothered by the Doctor kind of not thinking she can do it than she was by the situation she was in, which I think was just fantastic. The one great thing about the episode 1 cliffhanger for me is the way they really do set it up. That first episode is that you think that Nameen, the Egyptian, is going to be Sutekh's servant for the whole thing. That's the way they play it. And, even coming out of the corridor with that kind of black mask, you think, oh, that's Sutekh. And then he comes out and the carpet's burning and all this. But then he says, I'm Sutekh's servant. He needs no other. And so that it sets you up for thinking one thing in every way, and then they spin it by saying, oh, that's not Sutekh. Actually, really well done.
Even with his makeup makes it look worse, because you know that he's not actually alive and he's being used as a puppet. So when he
with the
dies,
red around the eyes.
yeah. So when he
is
passes
great.
away later, you feel relieved that he's been let go.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean. I know.
Now, I know Sean's coming in, but I'll just make the segue. Paul Richards here says Doctor Who works better when it's claustrophobic and not trying to do too much at once. Creepy atmosphere throughout this story. And that's the point. When I look at 73 yards, I think if you kept them in the pub in the Welsh village, you were on to
Agree.
good old Doctor Who.
Agree.
As soon as you change the locale, I think RTD lost the whole point. Go on, Sean, you were going to come in.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I want to make a premonition, a Sutekh-like premonition about the finale. I think, now I'm not making any political statement on this, I'm just stating a fact. I think they will make a comment about artifacts being taken out of their country of origin, which of course is a very important historical argument to have, discussion to have, sorry, because I'm into history, but they're probably going to make a point on that. I think, I'm just guessing. But outside of that, let's not depress ourselves. I love my favorite scene in this, in terms of that I'd love to act, is the scene between the Doctor and Sarah, where he's trying to get sorted out, trying to get his gadget together to defeat Sutekh, and he's being very inhuman because, as we know, he's not a 2024 person. He is an alien. He is a Time Lord. Remember those days, everyone. And he's talking. He's trying to get things sorted, and Sarah just kind of snaps at him and says, "Doctor, a man's just been murdered. A man's just been killed." And the Doctor says, four people have been killed, Sarah. They could be the first of millions.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of you get these little hints, and I am just getting to know the Fourth Doctor, that these tiny little hints that remind us that this is not a human. This is not, you're gonna have those clashes. That he's a Time Lord, of course. He looks at we would say the big picture nowadays, but it's more than that. He's looking at, I know it's from New Who, but there's a line in it where David Tennant says something. The 10th Doctor says something like, is it Eccleston? Anyway, says something like, "I see now and forever and the possibilities, and I see it all laid out." And I think that kind of shows you the kind of like the curse of a Time Lord, that they see.
Yeah.
The whole universe, and they've got to decide when to interfere and
mean,
when to not. And
talking
I love
about
that bit.
Talking about some of that Doctor dialogue, I've got it listed from when I did this before. Stop think. I mean, he's very sharp. Stop thinking him as your brother. Make it easy for you, But then that doesn't work. So he's insensitive. It sounds again. You don't deserve to be all right. You could have got us all killed.
Yeah.
Listen, what he's walking out there is no longer your brother. He's simply an animated human cadaver. It's blunt. He's blunt.
Yeah.
And the thing about the Fourth Doctor as written in this story, I love, and Tom Baker does it so well, the Doctor thinking out loud, the Doctor almost looking into space, trying to work out things, being very breathless, going, he says this is one of the greatest menaces he's ever faced, and we'll be lucky to get out of this alive. You really get this sense that I think the Doctor's in trouble here. This is going to be tricky to get out of.
And they never go so far as to say that this Doctor doesn't care or about humans, or isn't delighted by humans. I mean, the scene where Lawrence first comes in the TARDIS and he's marveling, and the Fourth Doctor is like smiling because he loves that Lawrence is so overwhelmed by, what he's seeing. He legitimately is pleased by that reaction. But then when things start, happening, you've got to have the right priorities. And so, when Lawrence's body kind of collapses, and then the Fourth Doctor just kind of rolls him, just uses one arm to kind of roll him away. It's because, look, this isn't the time to we don't have the time for this right now. I mean, I was thinking as I was watching it, if that had been Shooty when they found Dr. Warlock's body, and then when they find Lawrence Scarman's body, you would have had like an emo scene where we got the tears again, Doctor going, why, or whatever. So it's like, but
Well, we'll just tell him to buck up.
I mean,
That's right.
And this is what gets me, because obviously with all our streams, we've all looked at every RTD interview and everything. And RTD at some point has said, because we're in dark times, he wanted a hero doctor for the present day times. Okay, go for it, mate. But I don't think a doctor who's weak, emotionally fragile, cries a lot is the hero we need in 2024. And the fourth doctor is resilient. He's tested to his limit. He sacrifices himself by going to the pyramid to break that mental link of the control of the explosion, remember, of the rocket thing. And he risks his life, and then you get such amazing dialogue to realize that he may not get out of this, because the way he's talked to by Sutekh, the dialogue, you see, Doctor Who doesn't need special effects. It just needs good dialogue, because the dialogue to me as a kid, I understood it. In my presence, you are an ant, you are a termite.
The problem with me.
Hold on, sorry. Your argument is a cloud, but I see through it. I can shred your nervous system into a million fibers. That line there, to shred your system into a million fibers, to me, that really freaked me out as a kid. Go on, Sean. You wanted to come in, and then
yes. Oh God, what were we talking about?
dialogue.
Come back to me. Sorry, Rachel.
You've done me. So, well, talking about lines that would have been really good. One of the lines that he says is, this is after Sutekh has relinquished his power. He's passed out. You think, oh no, the doctor's going to perhaps regenerate, or something like that. You just don't know what's going to happen. Then suddenly he comes round and he says, oh yeah, well, not quite that casual, but respiratory bypass system. And I've written down here, lol, next to it, because it made me laugh, because it was so like, he said it as if it was like something that happened all the time. So I just thought, oh, that's a brilliant line to sort of like, it wasn't throwaway, but it was, like I said, you made it sound like it happened all the time. And the kids will be like, oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, I wish we could do that, but,
I think the only one... the only one that was slightly out of character was Sarah when she was handling the gun and firing it. I think it's, where did you get the crash course in firing a gun? Because we've never seen this before. Unless the doctor taught her.
Somebody said in the thread that a bit earlier that Liz Sladen questioned that. She had flu when she was filming this, I know as well. That was a tricky one. Doug Sims, good to see you, Australia. I'll be live tomorrow to catch you. The period atmosphere in Pyramids of Mars is excellent. Old BBC really knew how to do that well. This one of my my favourite Doctor Who stories, superb mix of Mama Howard and well-written sci-fi. And you've nailed it, Doug. This is sci-fi, and it's using a genre to be piggybacked onto it, but it's ultimately sci-fi. It had H.G. Wells in this, it had Apocalypse in this, it had timey-wimey, if you want to be stupid enough to call it that phrase. It had what you needed. It was sci-fi. The thing is, they made sci-fi through the prism of horror, and to kids, that is gold dust. Absolutely. Now, as I go around the panel, we're about to conclude on Pyramids of Mars, I'm sad to say, because, by now the omnibus would almost be over for Tales of the TARDIS, so we can't, overdo it. But if I started with Gary, have you got any final thoughts on something we haven't mentioned about Pyramids of Mars, on, some standout or something that we haven't said?
No, I think that we've covered it. I mean, it's exquisitely written, brilliantly acted. There's been a couple people in the chat who've said they're just about to watch it for the first time. It's wow. I envy them experiencing this story for the first time.
Well, I hope we haven't spoiled it, but I know. I don't put spoiler threads up for a 1975 story, but no, I really, really want to be you watching it for the first time. Although I have to say, you have to be a kid as well. It would help. Rachel, any final thoughts on Pyramids?
Brilliant episode. The lighting in it is some of the best that I've seen for the Tom Baker era. I do like the lighting a lot in this, actually. It really sets the mode, that taking over someone's mind using just green. You know what's going on because of the reaction to it. So just all in all, some of the best cast, some of the most well-written characters that we've had in Doctor Who. And using history, mythology, sci-fi, modern day, and all of that jazz pizzazz and future stuff because of the Marconi system, and just meshing it all together. Genius.
Yeah.
Great.
By the way, Rachel, before I move to Jeremy,
Yeah.
okay, it's 75, and I'm not one of those who revises things, but is it a fair criticism to say if you look at the cast, apart from Liz Sladen, it was all men?
Yes, it was all men. Yeah, that would be a fair observation.
You know, something that would, you know, if Pyramids of Mars arrived now on somebody's desk to make for the first time,
Yeah.
there would,
There would be all
yeah.
hell let loose.
Yeah.
It would. The DEI, particularly with it being under Disney, will be through the roof. You know, but the fact that it only has one woman in it doesn't bother me. You know, she's a feminist enough character. It is without having to add any other characters in it.
And that's the point,
Well-
Jeremy, isn't it? I mean, look, I don't want to revise it and I don't want to spoil it. I just want to make the point just to kind of, you know, show where we are in 2024. But it is a good point from Rachel, isn't it? That, yes, representation is important, but the female representation in Pyramids of Mars is strong.
Oh, yeah. With Sarah, yeah.
Yeah.
She certainly makes up for it.
Any
And-
final
Characters
thoughts?
should serve this. Characters should. Sorry, was that for Jeremy? Sorry.
Yeah, it's just so Jeremy's got any final thoughts on Pyramids?
Well, I'd say it's a classic, and I'd give it a very good 9 out of 10, possibly a 10 out of 10.
I was going to say, where's the one wobble gone?
Well, it's the hand that disappears off Sutek's seat when he stands. And there's also a scene where you can see a studio manager or a floor assistant.
Yeah.
When a door opens and when they get to Mars, and they think, "Oh, you could just see it do that." I never noticed it until I watched it.
And you know what?
the other night.
I know we do notice it, but you don't care. I mean, as Rachel was saying about the set and the lighting, that is a simple set. You know, it's a straightforward backdrop. It's just a daft little chair in the middle. I say daft little chair. You know what I mean? It's cheapish, and then the costume's brilliant, and we're going to come to Empire of Death in a minute. So for those in the thread wondering where we're going next, we've got straight after this, we're going to might as well talk about Empire of Death preview. We will then be discussing the latest on the ratings, and then we've got our best unit story. So, yeah, but the lighting lifts everything on things like this. And of course, Gabrielle Wolf's voice. Were you going to add a bit more, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was just going to say to point out the BBC at that time were very good with the scenery and the decoration and getting it spot on, and the costumes are brilliant for that particular time period. And that they were the best in the field at that time.
Yes, Sean. We've said earlier this was your first outing on Pyramids of Mars.
Yeah.
Something you haven't mentioned yet. You said you've made lots of notes. Something else that impressed you, or you just want to observe.
Yeah, I think I like the fact that you see the Doctor is an alien, because I think when you make the Doctor too human, like they've done now, you completely undermine the need for a companion. There's no need for a companion because you've already got somebody acting all dead emotional like a human. I loved the effect when Scatman, the possessed one, gets shot and smoke kind of gets like sucked back into his body. Loved that. Absolutely loved that bit. Loved the death. Well, not that he's already dead, but the bit where he kind of, he gets released just before he dies again. He's like, I'm free at last. And then you get that horrific charred corpse just before that disappears. And you think, dear God, watching this as a kid would have been frightening. And I just love the fact that all the characters serve the story. Characters should serve the story. There's no reason to crowbar a woman in there or a man in there. You watch like the Descent an all-female horror
Yeah.
film from the early
Yeah.
2000s. You don't need to
So,
crowbar a man in halfway through
well, I'm going to
because it doesn't serve the story.
I'm going to
And
start crowbarring in time now. So, because there's so much to discuss. I can see people in the thread have just arrived, so good to see you. We've still to come the best unit story in Doctor Who. We've still to come in the next minute our preview of the Empire of Death. It just seems to make sense when we've just talked about Pyramids of Mars, and we can do a bit of compare and contrast if you wish, and then you know, we add the ratings as well, of course. So please, and by the way, while I'm on the admin front, I've shown you a shot. I might as well show you another shot. Come on, I've been checking our subscriptions as we're talking. Some of you have been lazy little devils. Away. I'm clicking loads of buttons here and all the rest of it. And as you know from the early days, if you ever saw my streams, sometimes I had a beautiful tunnel sequence and I was having a cup of tea and you could see the shot. You know, classic. I forgot to press the run button, you know. Can you press the right button now? Please subscribe. We've done 80 odd shows now. You know by now whether we're consistent or not. I'd like to think you think we're consistent. So our way, lift a finger, get subscribing. I'm never going to catch up with Rachael. You're going to make sure she's 1K by tomorrow. But I'd like to say to her, bragging rights, I'm around 800, baby.
Oh, yeah,
Pudding.
you're fast catching up. No, it's not a competition. It's
No,
not.
it's not.
yeah, well,
It's
I've
not.
got 49 subscribers, so
Woohoo!
who's embarrassed now?
Well, no.
Oh,
well,
you'll
it's a
get
good
there.
Stop.
No, it's Sean. It is a good call out because you didn't do it for yourself. So can you now do it? Tell us about your channel, please.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry, yeah. Review it yourself. It's a film podcast for people who are eternally unimpressed. It's, you know, we review films, old stuff, the occasional new film if I think it's any good. I've got my new co-host Sarah, and yeah, it's you get a new episode every 2 weeks, every other Monday. And yeah, I've been doing it 2.5 years, getting best part of 3 years now. Really enjoy it. Nice to put a little bit of Northeast out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I enjoy it. And you know, you're not going to get, no offense to Gary, you're not going to get kind of the over the top kind of film reviews with all the music and the really positive Americans. You're just going to get this. And if you haven't got
Okay.
the flavor of what I'm like, but no, I love it,
So-
and it's been a joy to come on and talk about Doctor Who. Because
So
I don't
that's
have to do
just
the
in
editing.
case.
It's lovely.
Sorry, so that's Sean, and I had his. You had to review it yourself. Please find that. Rachel, I didn't put the thing up earlier, but in case everybody wants to get her to 1K by tomorrow, there she is. She can pay me in subscriptions to
will.
keep it up longer. No, I'm going to take it off because no, but there you go. Please subscribe to Rachel's channel. Not because we're after subscriptions, it's good stuff. And she's more nimble than me. She produces streams every 5 minutes. I think she has a loo break and then she's back on. So
Okay.
basically, go on, give her a sub, please.
You know, Brendan, she's actually done 2 new streams while she's been on this
I
one.
know.
We've
Every time
done
she
it.
does it. Everybody in the thread, watch this. How long does when Rachel disappears from camera? If it's for more than 5 minutes, you know she's just done another stream. And then so
Come
yeah.
join. It's Doctor Who TV film. Anything that's particularly woke. Some positive stuff. Some news. Bit of everything really. And we chat.
Yeah, and the good, it's good stuff, and actually, she's concise enough that you get the message. She's done her research, and then you're out, and you've got your rest of the day. So that's that's something Brendan needs to learn. All right, you two, shut it. So, where do we go
you're doing
now?
great.
Of course, I said it was going to be Empire of Death next, because on Saturday, this season that we anticipated for so long has to end. It does have to end. I'm sorry, folks. I have to conclude the festivities. That is a good. I remember you being on our stream, Rachael, about the trailer when I said that Sutekh was back. You know, hello.
Yeah.
No, and the Empire of Death. I love that actually as a shot. That's Doctor Who to me. That works.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I originally thought it was going to be the book. Originally, because there's a book called The Empire of Death.
Yeah.
I thought that's what they were basing it on, but not the case.
That's a Troughton missing adventure, right?
I don't know.
Oh.
Now,
I
just
really
to get
don't know
you
much about it.
just to get you wetting your appetite, Russell Davies obviously has gone on Instagram just to help you get the ratings up because he's not concerned, as you know. The Empire of Death approaches. What is the truth about Susan Triad? Who is Ruby's mother? And what vital object lies waiting on a distant planet with no name? Answers are on their way. All beginning with tonight, Pyramids of Mars on BBC Four. Yeah, he's advertising. And then Friday midnight, The Empire drops on the UK. And it's just a lot of spiel after that. So basically, I'll say it one more time. What is the truth about Susan Triad? Who is Ruby's mother? And what object lies waiting on a distant planet with no name? So he's left his car keys on another planet, I think. This must be the problem. So
apparently there's going to be a new song for this episode. Nobody cares.
What are the ratings going to be for this? I wonder.
Well,
Sean Pertwee.
I know Sean Pertwee. Sean Pertwee is mentioned. There's his name. Great actor, but why? Oh well, sorry, I answered it on Sunday, didn't I? In our stream on Sunday, I said that my suspicion was, because I was saying to Rachel at the time when we'd both done a stream about the Radio Times article, that he does say Spearhead from Space is one of those stories that we should all go back to look at in preparation for this finale. And in Rogue, I didn't think it almost looked like John Pertwee when you saw those scan doctors. He did look a bit weird, but I don't know if that was Sean Pertwee with a wig. I don't know. But anyway, the point is this. Are they going to try and go back to the John Pertwee regeneration from Troughton and crank in there the fugitive doctor? You know. So,
no.
I know.
Probably. It's so bad, but probably.
Weirdly, can I ask, is that where it says starring, it says Gemma Redgrave, Yasmin Finney, and Sean Pertwee? Why is it focusing on them? Does it say Shooty Gatwa above?
It must do. I don't know. This is a screenshot of a screenshot. So
okay.
This is not good history. This I don't know. I don't know the primary source, which is why I won't make a big thing of it. Sorry, that's the greater bit.
Well, it's interesting. So it's just interesting. So they list, you have strong woman, trans man, and somebody who's not really the doctor. So there you go. That kind of describes it perfectly.
Oh, listen to the way it's written, though. Literally the biggest finale ever. Really?
Well, that's Russell T. Davis's nonsense.
They've got to pump it up, haven't they?
Yeah, well, we
sell it, haven't they?
Well, I did say as we started the show, we've come to the point now where, how does Sutekh manifest himself? Well, we've seen a version already. If you do a compare and contrast, since we've just done Pyramids of Mars, and I think I remember, Rachel, you saying, rather than having CGI, it's a shame we didn't have a real person in front of us to act to.
Yeah.
I think it is always scarier. I don't think CGI scares people, really. But when you look at those two manifestations, did we need to go where we are now? Is it necessary?
I don't think it's necessary. Like I say, I think obviously the one on the right is done, I think, specifically because it's going to the cinema. They already knew it was going to the cinema at that point. And they took advantage of the fact that they knew really they only needed the voice for Sutekh as well, I think, there. And Gabriel Wolf is what 90?
93.
Yeah.
93. Wow. So, actors never really retire, but, sitting there in Sutekh's costume, that could also be a potential factor. But
Gary, does this worry you? I'm just seeing in the thread, and it might be how you feel as well. The CGI looks terrible. The CGI is embarrassing, says over the overseer. Peter Harrington says it looks more like a Tyrannosaurus, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Do you think because we've got more budget in present day Doctor Who, we are sometimes misspending the money when, as Rachel says, we could just have the enemy visibly in front of us as a 3-dimensional thing?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree. I mean, the thing with me in CGI, aren't we at the point now, after how many thousand movies, that we kind of assume that, CGI should be good? I mean, basically all it is a computer program, basically. So, I mean, we expect that. We're only really surprised when it's really, really terrible. But I think for a lot of creators, probably maybe RTD as well, CGI substitutes for quality in writing and imagination. It's like, well, no, we can get away with anything as long as the, little CGI, which is basically kind of like a, squirrel thing now. It's something to kind of like, mesmerize you and think that it's really cool, but it's never going to be a substitute for the storytelling we've been talking about for the last hour. And it's in and out of your mind. I mean, somebody sees CGI and it's like, okay, that's cool. Next.
Yeah.
It can stick with you like the stuff we've been talking about.
Melanie Weston investigates. He's offering answers. I got an idea who Susan Triad will be, and it will be a double knockout. Are we then spill? No, you don't necessarily have to do. Kate will take control, and then Scrappy Tech to get off the furniture. Oh yes, some people call him Scrappy Doo, don't they?
To be fair, it does look like a cross between the dogs from the 2002 Resident Evil film and the monsters from 2002 Scooby-Doo, in which the CGI look better. It looks, I mean, you could compare that to and I know it's a horror film, but compare that to the wolf effects from An American Werewolf in London from 1981 and tell me that people, I mean, I know young people today are very unused to CGI and it's really new to them and they'll love that. It's just a big dog. It's like, is that it?
Yeah,
the thing is, when you listen to and you'll have heard it, the dialogue in the original Pyramids of Mars, and then if you read the book, the dialogue is that the Osirans, Jeremy, can you remember that it's a staircase or something? Their heads are like a staircase or something. I can't remember. There was a phrase used, but it wasn't what you're getting. It was something else. And so we've gone down this path, and so I'm not convinced. That scares me more, Jeremy. That in front of you, I think that's better.
I mean, I've not really watched this episode, so I can't really say. I mean, I've only watched Pyramids of Mars.
You missed nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Jeremy is the one. If you haven't seen, don't worry, Jeremy. I'll have you back in. Don't worry. Why I'm turning my back on you? Who do it? Have a look at that stream. He makes a lot of decent points. That's why he says he hasn't necessarily seen it. Go on, Jeremy.
I was just going to say, if you look at the model on Pyramids of Mars, is coming down the time. Sutekh's coming down the time corridor.
Yeah.
You can obviously see it's a model, and somebody behind it just moving it just a little bit, just to animate it a bit. But if they could have improved upon that and put it in the new series, maybe that might have worked. Something very similar, but obviously CGI it.
Thank you, Greg Smith. Dome-shaped heads with a cerebrum-like spiral staircases. That is the description.
Yeah, that leaves it to your imagination. That's all you need.
Yeah. Sutekh wasn't really a monster. He had a motive. I mean, it's classic, isn't it? I mean, it was a. But I've got this shot up because, come on, then we're days away. On the left, you've got the good old time corridor, which, as you know, part of the solution was to kind of. And here's the dialogue: if Sutekh isn't stopped, he'll destroy the world. How long do Osirans live, Sutekh, as he's trapped in that time corridor? You're caught in eternity. You're 1,000 years beyond the 20th century. And then go on for 10,000. I moved a time tunnel into the future. He'd never reach the end, is what the Doctor says about the end of Sutekh in the original version.
Right.
So we come back to the big question, which is, starting with Gary, what is going to... Right, how will you explain Sutekh's back? And 2, how will you defeat him?
He won't. Yeah. I mean, if we're eagerly thinking that RTD is going to, answer every plot point and not leave any plot holes, then you haven't been watching this entire season. Because that's all that he's done in every story, so he won't answer it. I think we're avoiding the big question, which is Ncuti going to call Sutekh honey at some point during this episode.
Oh,
I'm
babes.
guessing so. You know, in the trailer, in that like 15-second trailer that they dropped,
Yeah.
there's a scene with him going up to obviously Sutekh and going, you know, by the 2 hearts I have, I will stop you. And I thought that had, I felt like absolutely zero gravitas, you know, in that scene. I mean, and it wasn't like I was predisposed to not like anything he does, but just I saw that line even in isolation, and there was no force or threat or strength
He
in
just
that
doesn't
line
have
at
it,
all.
does he?
Now, if I ask the panel to do quick answers to these, because there's a few theories coming up now, and just to give us an idea quickly, and we'll rattle through some of them. So, Peter Harrington, maybe Horus and Isis may show up, or did Sutekh kill him? Now, I'll quickly say I've seen rumors that Horus could have been hiding somebody on Earth all the time, either Mrs. Flood or Ruby Sunday's role, where she was planted there waiting for this moment. However, anybody on the panel want to come in and say whether they think that's yay or nay?
I think they're going to push a lot of it to the next season. I hate saying
Right,
season,
well,
but it is.
that's a no then.
Yeah.
I'm
I
just,
don't
I'm,
think Ruby.
I'm just going to rattle through some of these. Susan Triad will be Ruby's mother, as that is the only thing that could be unresolved about Susan, says Melanie Weston Investigates.
I don't think they're going to resolve the mom thing.
No, I don't. I think it will be Ruby putting herself down. I said it again. Oh my goodness! I mean, putting herself outside the church.
Yeah.
I did that the other day. Oh, sorry. She's not a dog.
And as for SG,
yeah.
SG says Gatwa might twerk Sutekh to death. He did say he's going to twerk to the Daleks. He might do that. And there is another rumor that says, it's not a rumor. It's also Anthony Parkinson saying it. Ruby will defeat Sutekh. And tell me I'm wrong, Rachel.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if she did.
I think
actually.
Rose will.
Can I throw my absolutely wild idea out there so that if it turns out I'm right, Gary will be shouting Rachael from the other side of the world?
I will be too.
I just said, imagine if Susan Twist or Triad, whatever her name is, was the real Susan, but she doesn't have her memories, and she was taken over by Sutekh. And at the end, when Sutekh lets her go, she regenerates into Verada Sethu. And that's how Verada gets introduced into the series.
No Caroline Ford at all.
No. I don't know. That's just a wild theory.
No. It's good that you share them on here because I've now got it recorded. I have concluded so either something happens to stop her dying or it's a closed resolution, says C1003.
Wait, who dying?
Yeah, I think
Ruby?
we've got the Ruby thing. Yeah, it's a time flight moment. I'm putting it out there. He loves time flight. He loves season 19. We're going to have a time flight disconnection. Doug Sims, my biggest concern about the finale is based on the destruction shown. The resolution will be that old chestnut, the reset button. Doug Sims, remember the Star Beast? I did not understand the drama of all of London's streets were cracking and you've got the molten lava below. And then at the end, when they solved it, they all just healed. Britain is riddled with potholes. I wish the Star Beast resolution would solve that issue. All those cracks in the streets disappeared. This is magical hocus pocus, Doctor Who. If you're going to say London is decimated and it's like a major earthquake, you can't at the end of the episode just have it healed with some polyfiller. For God's
How would we tell a difference? I'm not joking. Maybe we should get Meet the Beep to do our roadworks. He'd solve the.
He does. Sutekh's going to be suckered into a pyramid.
That's very good, Peter.
Very good. Paul Richards, RTD signpost things like Sutekh's return, and it's annoying. It should be a total surprise. Well, yeah, and I spoiled it as well because I was so I've
always said I think that trailer shot of Shooty squatting and shouting. I've always said that's going to be the last shot of the episode, and I either this one just now or the upcoming one, and so it's going to be the upcoming one.
Maybe they totally break the fourth wall and he just squats and defecates and goes, "That's what you get, Doctor. That's what you get."
Because you notice, Brendan, in that I was reading very carefully that RTD statement that you had up before.
Yes,
that little shot. Notice in there that he never explicitly says that not this that one. Notice that he never explicitly says all of those questions will be answered in this episode. He says the Empire of Death approaches, then there's questions. He says answers are on their way. He doesn't say all those. He doesn't say that those questions are all going to be answered in this episode. No, it's very clever wording. It never. I mean, your mind connects it that that's what he's saying, but if you actually think about it, that is not what he's saying here.
Yeah, he's very good at sort of like making statements where you have to think between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because then he can come back and he go.
I mean, really,
then he can come back and go, well, that's not really what I said. If you go back and read it.
I before Sean comes in, I want to say the reason I had this up and I put these two shots together is because I just want to remind everybody from Sunday. I did say the time window, the play school round window, is going to be used to entrap Sutekh again. It'll go slightly wrong in the case that Ruby will be caught in it as well. And there's your season 2 play out. The time window is just too convenient as a kind of sci-fi magic pocus, and it's just that we need some disconnect at the end. He needs the Tegan time flights left at Heathrow, and Ruby will be trapped in there. We've already had, she was trapped in that triangle, but Rogue bailed her out. This time she's trapped. There's no Rogue about. And it means in season 2, he's going to have to go looking for her beyond the time window and also have a bit of Nuki with Rogue. So there you go. That's season 2 sorted out. What about season 3? Anyway, what were you going to say, Sean?
I just think just have a think in your heads, Doctor Who fans, the ones that are left. Have a little think. think of the worst possible thing that you think could happen to Doctor Who. Times it by 1,000,000. Add a bit more. Add a bit of dung, and then you'll probably get what we're going to get. It's horrendous. It's going to be a wet fart. It's going to be nothing to write home about. It'd be boring. I'm sorry. I've finally.
You're going to get me such a reputation for being so
it's just me. I have genuinely. Well, come on. Like, if you're not past the point of not, you can stay open-minded. But you can only be kicked so many times. That you finally do a Jeremy, as I'm going to call it, and you leave, which I think genuinely.
It's official. It's do a Jeremy.
Sean, we share a football team, and you haven't walked away yet, and we've been rubbish. Come on.
Yes, they don't insult me every week. They don't throw the ball at me or tell me that this isn't for me, and they don't. It's just for the kids. It's for
Right. Well, I mean, gosh, we can go on. We are fans after all. Apparently, we are. I don't know if we're real fans. I'm sorry, Shooty did say if you're real fans.
Oh, I also predict that. What's his name? Morris. What was the character name?
Oh, Morris Gibbon.
Morris Gibbon and his Segway, I think, are toast in this.
He's got the rockets. Did you see in the?
No, I think he's toast, especially if that other woman's coming back. I think he's toast in this episode.
To be fair, he did give us the best moment of that entire episode, where they are stood talking about Davina McCall, and he just gives this look that I was giving while watching it, which was like, what the hell am I listening to?
Who cares about Davina McCall? She should have been dead if we followed the time event properly. That Christmas tree should have impaled her. Anyway, as fans, what did Sean say a minute ago? He was talking about the fans who are left. Well, yes, we've got to just conclude a few things about ratings, Roger. Here we go. Scary music again. I mean, I'll change the music if it's necessary, but I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, don't ever change that music.
So obviously, I'm advertising my channel for a second, but Rachel can come in because she's been talking about the ratings too. We both seem to talk about ratings an awful lot. But yes, the ratings conundrum was one of mine. I did another one on Monday. I think Rachel did on Monday too. I think Doctor Who finale, flatlining TV. That was me being nice. Flatlining. Well, it's slightly going down actually. So we had the figures. I'm not saying I've got an exclusive. We know these figures inside out. They seem to be chuffed to death that Rogue got 3.52 plus 7, 4 screens with the same person watching again and again just to watch the kiss. But what I was going to try and say is I had a lot of abuse. I was texting Rachel the other day. People were saying, you don't understand. You're comparing Don't you know that every Christmas Day Doctor Who gets that figure, and then obviously by June it goes down, and I'm going, hold on, I'm comparing November the 25th. I'm not comparing a special Christmas Day episode. I'm starting from the beginning of the series to now, and you've lost 3 million. End of. 61% of your audience. And why do people kick back on this? That's the truth. Find some other truth, but that's the truth, isn't it, Rich?
I think basically they've lost the David Tennant audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I would agree. If
Oh,
So-
I've got a point. Oh, sorry.
carry on. Actually, I'll think about what I need to say. With
I was talking about this before we came. I bumped into some people at work who I didn't know watched Doctor Who. One was around my age, one was a bit older, and they were just casual fans. The one my age grew up with it, knew Who like I did. The older one had watched it longer, and they basically echoed exactly what we've been saying. And a lot of channels have been saying that Jodie Whittaker killed it. This new era, it's not Doctor Who. They watched the Christmas special and dropped it. Now, I think this is the bigger issue. Like, it doesn't really, not that it doesn't, but it doesn't really matter what people like us say, because we're just the last few stragglers at the end of the pub night when everyone's too drunk and it's just a mess. The people who've gone are the ones who, I love my analogies, the ones who have gone are that massive core of like 5 or 6 million people, or even 2 or 3 million at this point, who would have gone, oh, Doctor Who, that'll be a nice, half an hour, 40 minutes to watch. We're not massively invested. They won't go and look at the theories or the teaser trailer or look online or debate it on Twitter or whatever. But these were people who would watch it, would put it on. No one had a clue. My mum didn't have a clue that Tennant was coming back for the 60th specials because there was no marketing around it. They lost their opportunity then.
Sean, my nieces, who are 16, 14, and my nephew's about 10, they don't even know what Doctor Who is. They've not seen any advertising. And when I mention I'm doing Doctor Who streams, they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So the market he's pitching for don't even know this program exists, some of them.
The advertising has been very poor.
Yeah. I would say that with these numbers, if Disney hadn't been bankrolling it, this would have got it cut. Because it's too expensive. Soaps are much cheaper to run than something like Doctor Who, because of all the special effects and the types of costumes that they've got to create in animatronics for Doctor Who. It would have been cut because they can't survive on just the BBC money alone to run it. So it would have been gone. It's performatively it's performatively worse than the last Sylvester McCoy season, and I know you can't really compare it. And I said this the other day. I was quite hot on it the other day, but I'm a lot calmer about it now.
There you go. And Doug Sims, I'll use your comment in a minute. But since Rachel was talking about it, you mentioned this on Sunday, and I didn't have it available. But there it is.
Yeah. You see, look, season 26 is progressive. Very low, and Gary said that Battlefield received one of the lowest sort of like scores because it wasn't advertised. So it would have done a bit better if it had some advertising. But its first episode was 3.1 million for Battlefield alone, and then obviously it went up because people are like, oh, it's back. But it averaged just 3.65 in the end, and these obviously they're just the averages. But it's performatively worse. I know you can't really compare it. It is a very difficult thing to compare to, but that's what got the show cut last time.
Yeah. And then when you look at it this way and say that 7 of the 8 worst episodes ratings-wise of Doctor Who are this season. There's your Battlefield.
Can you taste that, everyone? It's delicious. Delicious.
And,
what you get.
And here's what it all comes down to for me personally. For everyone who is on forums, on chats, whatever, trying to like hand wring 24/7 and trying to squeeze, and boost every one of these ratings through +7s and +4s and +28s and +365s, it's never going to make the quality of these episodes better.
Correct.
If you think that it will, it's like if only these numbers would hit a certain plateau that would obviously translate, into the fact that, oh, that right there alone makes these episodes better. It never will. And I mean, beyond that, as we've said before on the panel, don't tie your own, it seems to me like so many people tie their own kind of like, self-worth into how this show performs. It doesn't. I mean, there's, stop taking these numbers so personally and go out and find something to be passionate about rather than, tying everything to how well this season does in the ratings.
The thing is, when and I think me and Rachel get it in the neck quite a lot from certain people. Look, we look at all the figures. We also know with our own eyes whether it seems to be planting and seeding with the public. We know from word of mouth. We know that the media's not talking about it, actually. So if you don't like us talking about the overnights, we won't talk about the overnights. Shall we talk about the audience appreciation figures? Oh, whoops, they're not being revealed anymore. So we can't use the audience appreciation figures and we can't use the overnights. So we have to use a new format, apparently, which the media now likes because the figures are so low that they like to say, can we do +7s or 28 days because the same person has watched it 10 times. And we want to count that because we YouTubers can only count people once, but we like to cheat. So look, word of mouth. Rachael is an actress. She can't play to empty theatres. What's the point?
Absolutely not.
Yes. What's the point of producing a show, renting the venue, paying the actors, blah, 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 all the refreshments and paying all the behind the scenes staff, and then nobody comes to watch? That's what you measure, folks. And you can try and lie your way around this. And as Gary says, squeeze it out, put it in a different way, through another prism. Listen, you're in the entertainment industry. You are not entertaining. People are not liking what you're saying is entertainment and they're turning away. That is the fact. Get over it. Now, am I saying anything wrong?
I think I mean, I have got to say, I have reached a point where I don't care about the show anymore. I care about the show, but this isn't Doctor Who. And don't get us wrong. None of us here. I can't talk for other people, but I know everyone here is good. We've all got good intentions. No one here is like, good, get it cancelled, let a load of people lose their jobs. Because I've no doubt behind some of the smugness and the arrogance of some of the people, there'll be a hell of a lot of people pulling the puddings out, and that just means working really hard. Getting this made and getting the costumes. I read a lot about films. I watch series. I'm a proper geek. I understand the amount of work. I might not have worked on a film or a TV, but I understand the amount of work that goes into making these things. So we don't say this out of bad faith. All we're trying to say is that, look, this show's struggling, but if they won't listen to what's been said, if enough people say it to you, then you need to start listening, don't you? And they need to take it on board, but they don't want to.
Sean, you're a public servant. You understand this. I also understand this. Everybody on our panel and everybody on the thread knows if you go to a restaurant and you've had waitress service or something, at the end of the night, they sometimes say, can you fill in this, please? And can you do this? Talk about tips. You know that if you cancel a subscription on the internet with an agency or something, they normally say, can you tell us why? Can you give us some feedback on the phone call we've just given you? Everybody out there is bothered about feedback. The only people not bothered about feedback is RTD and Bad Wolf. Isn't that weird?
It's a really good point. We're all used to work where you get appraisals and evaluations and Ofsteded or CQC'd or whatever the American equivalent of those are. You have all these different things that come in and do quality assurance and make sure everyone's working to the same standard. It's all getting done properly. It's being done because your clients or your residents or your customer base or whether you go out and work with or work for, or if you're public servant, you're getting backed by public money, a bit like the BBC. So the stuff you're doing needs to benefit your customers. And this is what people are. The customers, they're not consumers, the customers to your product of Doctor Who. And the
They're
people
also
they've
license
lost.
payers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've lost people like us who, well, for this new era where, you'd have gone out and bought all, proper geeks who'd have bought the books, bought the behind the scenes stuff, bought the figures, bought the models,
Sean, the
bought
other
the
thing is,
stuff like that.
Sean, the other thing is, I want to write a novel, like Half the Planet, and I won't get it published because the content of my novel will not be what is the fad at the moment. I won't be able to find a publisher. I won't be able to find an editor. I won't be able to find an agent. That is a fact. I just know for a fact with the message I will have, they won't want to hear it. I have to be a big boy and know that my voice will not be heard. And yet, as Dividing Dragon is saying, it has a lot to do with ideology not being supported. Failure of a woke show, failure of an ideology. You see, RTD and Mob are trying to promote their ideology, which happens to be the fad at the moment, so he can just carry on till the cows come home. I have an ideology. It won't get published. It won't. It's not the fad. It's not accepted because I have to conform. And as you know, the world now, you conform or you're silenced. And the problem is when we criticize the facts, we are told there's something wrong with us and we need to go away. And we're looking at the wrong facts. I'm sorry, I don't need the facts. I know the program's boring. I'm a Doctor Who fan. It's my favorite TV show. I'm bored. I don't need figures. It just so happens the figures replicate what I'm thinking.
Yeah, but a lot of people have gone. You don't want us to listen. You're not going to listen to us. We're not interested. There's more important things out there. It's not an easy time for people. So people are going to think, you know what? I'm not going to watch Doctor Who. I'm not going to depress myself. I'm going to go and have a beer in the back garden. I'm going to go read a soppy romance novel. I'm going to listen to a podcast. I'm going to go watch YouTube. Why do you think YouTube's booming? It's not difficult to work out.
What about this then? What about this, Sean? There's another alternative. What about go and watch House of the Dragon? Because, thank you, Gary Lee, 600,000 people stayed up late for the second season premiere of House of the Dragon. 600,000. Now, compare that to Doctor Who gets around 130,000, 150,000. I think the last episode did hit 200,000. It's getting whopped. And you know the difference? Because I watched the first episode of the second series last night. I am a Doctor Who fan. And I said to Jamie, why am I liking this more than Doctor Who? It takes itself seriously. You can see where the budget's been spent. The actors take it seriously. They don't break the fourth wall. There's no messaging. They just get on with it. Can Doctor Who just get back to making a TV program that looks as though it takes itself seriously? Because you can see the figures up there are 3 times as big than Doctor Who.
Maybe, but it might take time. It probably needs. Oh, well, I was going to say a rest. It needs to.
61 years old.
Is this the one? Is that the one with Matt Smith in it?
Yes. Really good. Really good.
It needs writers.
Well, yeah, it needs.
Dragons, but this one.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, it does. It needs reinvigorating by people who understand it and who want to push it forward now and make good television, because you can have all these you can have messages and things, you can nuance it. You can. It's not difficult. I mean, if you're a writer, I presume it's not difficult to do.
You see, what you do, H.G. Wells'
this
Time
isn't Doctor
Machine.
Who, is it?
H.G. Wells' Time Machine is obviously a critique of the Victorian class system, but he hardly words it like that. It's just a rip-roaring story, but it's obvious when you look at it in the round. And actually, the last chapter, when he lands on some far-flung futuristic Earth, you could argue there's an issue about global warming, but it's there if you want it. That's it.
But that's the best thing about writing. You can put your own background upon that, your own. I've been watching. I know I mentioned it, Star Trek Enterprise again, but I've been watching those, and you can put your own influence. Like good writing on an alien world.
Well, look at this.
You can put your own thing on it.
Look at this. The Barb +7 age 4 to 15-year-old audience ratings for Rogue breakdown is as follows. And you look at where Doctor Who is. There's Bluey. Hey, Dougie CBeebies. International Football. Yep. In for a Penny. Doctor Who. It's just not grabbing. I don't know if anybody wants to give any more input, because obviously I'm on a rant, aren't I?
Wait. Shocking. They watch Coronation Street. Someone told me the other day, I can't remember who it was, that kids don't watch soaps, which I know is a load of rubbish because I watched soaps as a kid. But
so did I.
Yeah.
Heartbeat was class.
Will we start,
Oh,
Brendan? Will we start reviewing
Love
Bluey next
Yeah,
week?
well, you've given away the exclusive.
good idea.
I'll
Oh, I'm
send you
sorry.
I'll send you some
damn.
pictures, Rachel, because Scripps Garage and the Aidenfield Arms still look the same as they did back then. And
Really?
when you walk between Gromont and Gothland,
Yeah.
it looks exactly the same. I'll send you some photos.
Right,
Oh,
so
brilliant.
just to finish on the audience there.
Wow.
So in
Wow.
the
That's
rounds, there's the
interesting.
line graphs. We had our best period, obviously. David Tennant to Matt Smith. You can see where there's peaks beyond the line graph, which is the average, isn't it? So you can see David Tennant, yep. And obviously season 4, this is still the RTD era, RTD 1. And then you've got Matt Smith, plateau, but strong.
That really surprises me, the plateau for Matt Smith.
Yeah, because that's when he went and hit America, really, wasn't it? Matt Smith was the breakthrough to hit America, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Comic-Con and all the rest of it. But then you see, and it's sad to see, but, you know, the facts are the facts. And I've got to be honest, I love Peter Capaldi, but the facts are there. Although I would say that Stephen Moffat started to go down this BBC agenda a bit. And we had gender fluid Time Lords and all that stuff. And yes, you can see the decline. Everybody interested in Jodie being a female doctor. So you get that peak at the very beginning. But then look at that descent. It is shocking.
Very.
I'm surprised that Jodie's line isn't absolutely vertical.
Well,
But it was,
Harry,
it was because when they fell into the TARDIS and in the bed, I think it was a vertical descent then.
Jodie's Flux season consistently did better than the season we've got at the moment, and that's saying something because
bad
people
Fluxes
don't
as
like
well.
Flux.
Dear me.
Reflux.
Flux is
Now,
reflux, acid.
I've probably given
Acid, yeah.
I've probably given you all indigestion.
Sean.
I've probably made you all feel a bit queasy. So to make
But that
you feel
was, I've never seen that graph before. That was fascinating. That was absolutely
I'll show
fascinating.
it again.
that chart.
I've shown it once before on one of my streams, but anyway, yeah. The truth is this: we are Doctor Who fans, and we want to cover everything. We've now had a bit of bad news for a few minutes, so let's cheer ourselves up. The panel have informed me about their best unit stories. The thread, can you now go on fire and tell me your favorite unit stories and why? We're now going to have what we call a 2-minute break where we'll do my advertising of the good old sense sphere. Yes, we call the sense sphere. So I'll see you in 2 minutes, everybody. Best unit stories. I'll race you.
Out there is a planet we call the Sense Sphere. Area has been prepared for you on the Sense Sphere.
We're heading straight for it. It's a Sense Sphere.
So Earthmen have visited the Sense Sphere.
Extra! Get back! Get away!
I make my prediction for the new year that there will be something said in Parliament about Doctor Who at some point.
There was absolutely nothing there, and this is why Chibble is a hack. There you go, Michelle, take a first drink.
Who are you?
Are you my mummy?
Oh, right. Well, the last time I looked, not, but maybe I'm a sister of Khan. What are you talking about?
I'm the empty child.
You're the empty child. You'll be a wallop child in a minute. Russell T Davies himself, the destroyer of fandom, the destroyer of canon, the destroyer of what this program used to be. I'm supposed to be on my own as a time agent. Yeah, I know. I'll have to keep my... There might be spying for Bad Wolf or Disney Plus.
Please like and subscribe to Sense Sphere. I'm going to place you in a miniature care home.
What the hell's that on your head? He's just dropped... Have you seen this? What was that on your head? Can you see that? Is it caramel?
It's my Logopolitan brain.
You're pretending to be a Logopolitan? Dear God.
And how do we get down to this Sense Sphere?
Well, it's dead
Yay.
easy. Yeah, it's dead easy to find the sense sphere. You found us. Hey, have you subscribed? Hey, come on. So I'm trying to get to 700. If you are enjoying our entertainment, we've got a strong panel here of people who stream everywhere else as well. Gary's on everything. I may keep mentioning Rachel's streams, but Gary, you're on loads of streams over the years.
Yeah, I don't have my own channel. I just am lucky enough to appear on others' great shows for the moment.
I am sure the thread has seen you on various streams. I saw you years ago, and I'm so grateful you're on ours. Thank you, because you bring a lot to the party, as does Rachel, as does Sean, as does Jeremy. So thank you. Right. Oh, best unit stories. Well, thread, you're telling me.
Thought you did a Frank Spencer impression there.
Well, it's called
Betty.
It's the bit when I found out Betty's pregnant. Yeah, so
90 days made a whoopsie.
So let me just round up, and then I'm going to come to the first one. So Inferno is mentioned. You do surprise me. Divine in Dragon, Inferno was my favorite. Paul Richards agrees with that. So that's 3-0 to Inferno. But then coming up the railings, C1003 says Spearhead. So that's 3-1. By the way, yes, we might talk about TV stuff, but TARDIS Spider, brilliant news. Good to hear from you, and we'll get you back on this panel again. He's been on our panel before. Lovely bloke is Terry, and that's fantastic news.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Doug Sims.
yay. That's great. I just saw the note.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Brilliant.
Congratulations.
It's good news.
Yeah.
Doug Sims, not the best perhaps, but my favorite unit story. Doug Sims. All I'll say is yes, somebody on the panel agrees with you. Over the Overseer, best unit story, Terror of the Autons. Great story. Best unit characters, Delgado's Master. Yep. Green Death, Cybermat Strikes, can't make his Green Death, Planet of Spiders, Terror of Zygons, and all of Doctor Who canon Cybermat Strikes. You've missed a bit out there. Then we've got Doc, who's on our panel. He's just sat there. RTD's favourite unit stories of time on us because Benton's in a nappy. Well, what can I say? Cheeky devil.
Hey, fair play for saying nappy and not diaper. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Peter Harrington. Give us the hard ones. Definitely Silurians and Inferno. Robot happy memories. Demons, and I chuck in Mind of Evil, the prison attack. Unit at sea. What's this called, Peter? A pick and mix. I'd be here all night. I'd be streaming as long as you know who in the top right hand corner.
Shout about it.
The Queen of the Road. The Queen of the Road. She's probably on 970 subs as we're talking. You just watch. Invasion of the Dinosaurs is mentioned. Green Death, our Invasion of the Dinosaurs is Daryl. Oh, I'll tell you what. Is this getting you kind of nostalgic? And I could watch any of these, let's be honest. So, thank you so far. Tell us why, everybody. And thank you for that. But tell us why now. And another one from Super John, Terror of the Autons. So, without... you're getting there. So, let me get my first one up there. So, whose is this one? Spearhead from Space.
Me.
Okay, Jeremy, over to you.
It's a very good story.
Thank you. No, I'm joking.
It's a very good story, and Unit is there for the backup of the Third Doctor during his regeneration. So in a way, it's kind of helping him quite a lot, and also the fact that there's a beautiful fight sequence with the unit soldiers towards the end, which is a very similar to the invasion when the unit soldiers are fighting the Cybermen.
Yeah. So why did you? You've said a bit, but I'll just push you further. Why this unit story?
Mainly because you see them a lot in the story, and what they're capable of, what they're doing, and their involvement in it, which is fundamental to that particular story. So I think it also sets a scene for the whole of season 7 and John Pertwee's stories when he's on Earth and during his tenure.
I mean, we know that Unit were in the 60s in Invasion, for example.
Yeah.
We saw them in the Web of Fear. We know that they'd already been introduced. This one obviously established the team kind of thing.
That's right.
For our exile. So it's interesting that you've gone for Spearhead rather than say Terror of the Autons that some people have already listed. Why did you? What pulled you towards this one? Because we all agree. You've seen what the thread have said. There's some very strong Unit stories for different reasons. For example, Gary will explain his later, but and I don't know what they are, but he said he had specific criteria. So what was your criteria that pulled this one ahead of Terror of the Autons, Demons, etc.?
I think because Unit are in it quite a lot, and it sets the framework for John Pertwee's era going ahead. So I think that's probably the reason why I chose it more than, say, Terror of the Autons.
Right. So I'm going to... Yeah, because this is your choice, I'm just pushing it in different directions. And so, for example, Liz Shaw is part of the Unit team, but she only lasts this season. So I can see why some people in the thread say, no, it was cozier when we had Joe Grant. There were my memory. You know, why are we going this direction, so to speak?
I don't know, actually. I just think it's a very good story, but it's the way that Unit are portrayed more, I think, in this particular story than any of the other stories. I mean, there are some very great battle scenes. I mean, the Mind of Evil is one that does come to mind. But I think this is a good general all-rounder, I would say.
Gary, did you want to come in on Spearhead?
Well, the thing about Spearhead, it is a great story. I actually, season 7 is far and away my favorite classic Who. I think all the stories are amazing. For Spearhead, though, it's interesting that, you think at the time it was moving into color with a brand new Doctor, but the Brig is the one character, is the one point of familiarity and the point of reference for audiences in this story, because the Doctor obviously is there, but nobody knows this Doctor yet. So the fact that Brigadier was already by then such a, well-loved character, that he was the one who basically kind of carried the entire story until the Doctor, the third Doctor, got going. And even then, we didn't know the Doctor in many ways, who's still kind of a stranger to us. So, Brig and Liz kind of carried things. It's a great story. And the fact that it was on film, that was the production necessity for this story only. But I think that just adds to, the filmic nature of the movie nature of this story.
Well, Over the Overseer, John Pertwee in the shower is the real reason this one was picked. Havoc, of course, Havoc. And Havoc are solid in this season, adds so much to the action. Yeah, you see, who was the Unit team? Or should we say, who was the Doctor Who team then? Because, later on, Delgado was kind of part of the Unit team, I kind of think, because it was all, they're always in it together, interacting, so to speak. But Havoc, the stunt team, were fantastic. And they added to the realism, I suppose, Gary, you're talking about, the filmic quality, the outside broadcasts, Havoc being doing proper stunts. And yes, I agree, Paul Richards, the Autons were much more creepy. But since we're judging on Unit stories, the Unit pick him up, check him out in the hospital. We learn about various things. Liz Shaw can carry the room because she's no mug. There's the Brigadier trying to work out how, regeneration works. It is an interesting choice, and you're not alone, are you, Jeremy, on this one? There were plenty in the thread earlier who did mention this one. So good call out. So we come to our next choice. So Gary, warm up your tonsils. Here we go. So folks, you have not mentioned the one that Gary's mentioned yet. He will have particular criteria. So over to Gary. Over to you, Gary.
I had to exercise specific criteria because there was no clear winner. I couldn't pick just one. Let me start by saying that Inferno is my all-time favorite story. It has never been bettered for me, and I doubt it ever will. So that is Inferno for me is in a league of its own. I think that's the best Doctor Who story ever done for about a million different reasons. And I think that season 7, which is Spearhead, the Silurians, the Ambassadors of Death, and Inferno, is my all-time favorite season because I like the harder edge where UNIT is a serious, capable military organization. It has various kind of Quatermass tones over the whole season before it settles into the cozier kind of family atmosphere next season. I think overall it's a magnificent season. So I thought Inferno is my obvious choice because it's my all-time favorite. But then I thought, and then also Invasion of the Dinosaurs, I think is the most underrated UNIT story. I think that's colossally underrated and it's a magnificent story. So I thought I've got to apply some kind of criteria to making an impossible choice. So I thought, okay, want to get a story that has the Third Doctor in it, obviously, because that was, UNIT's greatest period. I wanted to get a story that has all of the UNIT regulars in it, which is the Brig, Sergeant Benton, and Captain Yates. So that started to limit my choices. And then I wanted to pick a master story, not because I think he's part of UNIT, but because the master is so indelibly tied with that. So I thought, what's a Third Doctor master story that has the Brig, Benton, and Yates in it, and is still a good story? And so that narrowed me. So I gradually narrowed down to Claws of Axos, which is not just a default story. Claws of Axos is a very strong story. It has the monster, it has the aliens invading Earth. It's triply psychedelic. If you want, you will never get a more 70s psychedelic story than the Claws of Axos. And you have the math, and then you've got, if you have a Pertwee master story, you have to have an officious, idiotic British politician in there gumming it up.
Yeah.
And I think that Mr. Chin is probably the epitome of that in any Doctor Who story. I mean, this guy is just a pompous idiot that Pertwee delights in puncturing. So we have that. We have we get the bonus of the bad American accent in Bill Filer, which is great. And I think you have really, really well-designed monsters. They're so good that a few seasons later, they were spray painted green and became the Crinoid.
Yeah.
And they really did. They used the same design for that. You have the great design of the ship, which is totally unlike anything, before or since. The kind of weird, kind of organic thing. Zygons kind of did it in a way, but in a much different way. But this is great. You have the perfect master scene where he gets into the Doctor's TARDIS. He says this is like a gas powered, or this is, his line about this TARDIS being a gas stove. So with all of those criteria that applied to, like I said, what for me was an impossible choice, I centered on Claws of Axos. And for those readers of Doctor Who comics, many years ago, the serial comic in the Doctor Who magazine they brought back the Axons in an 11th Doctor story with Matt Smith, where they invade Japan. And that was a really, really good serial in the Doctor Who magazine comic where the Axons return. So that's me with Claws of Axos.
Cool.
Anybody want to add to that? Because obviously it's memories. I mean, you've all had to make difficult choices. You have to make it to shout days ago. It's hard because you're all doing other stuff.
Good choice.
Go on, Jeremy.
I was just going to say a good choice.
I like because it's atmospheric, and I'm not going to just repeat what Gary said because he did it ably himself. The one thing I will say is I did like the whole set. of the ship. It's very Zygon-esque. And what you needed is whenever you've got an invasion or a creepy setup like that, is you want this safe and secure unit team, and unit kind of delivered. So that is Claws of Axos. So how's the thread going on this one? You've had Spearhead nominated, you've had Claws of Axos, 2 nominations, and you've heard the arguments for it. You can back us up in a moment and tell us which of the 5 of us have won the argument. So next, we're going to Inferno.
Yay.
Ooh.
Yay,
Season 7.
Gary! Yay! You're excited because Inferno is your favorite, isn't it?
It is.
But I hate to break it to you, but Inferno is probably one of my least favorite stories. However, with regards to Unit, I love what they actually did with Unit in this one. It's actually very, very clever indeed. So I'll just keep it short.
No, go. I want to. No, don't go on and on about it. Seriously,
there's really not many reasons, I can give. I just think I love the idea behind a parallel universe, and they did that with Unit, and they used Unit to their advantage, and that showed how dangerous Unit actually can really be. And the Doctor is in absolute peril because Unit are totally against him, and I love that idea behind it. But what it really highlights for me is the difference between this version of Liz Shaw and the companion version of Liz Shaw. I always thought that the version of Liz Shaw that you see in Inferno is actually a lot better than the companion version. And the reason why I think that is because she's way too smart to be a companion of the Doctor. So what she needs, the Brigadier, it works better as a companion because he has the smarts, but he has the military strategy smarts. And so he doesn't have the scientific smarts. So it allows for all those questions that you get with like Joe Grant later on to be asked. Whereas with Liz, you don't always really get that. So it was nicer to have her sort of like be the one to ask all the questions, be inquisitive and all of that. You don't really get that with Liz in the series. And I just think she works better here. But other than that, yeah, alternate universe Unit, absolutely loved it. And I don't really have much more to say on it, to be honest.
Well, the thing is, Rachel, as an actress, Nicholas Courtney, this is his favorite. You know for a fact, Carol and John, I'm sure, love this one the most because as an actor, you're playing 2 parts. It's just a gift, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're playing probably the worst versions of the character that you're playing already. And that makes it fun. You could tell they were having fun. Although
Right.
I could tell the moustache was fake.
Well, let's have a bit of fun because I'm going to ask the thread to vote for just based on our nominations. So, Over the Overseer, Inferno is far too long. And
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I think
6 episodes.
I think Over the Overseer, are you going to work for RTD in the editing department for Tales of the TARDIS? Because if they're doing Inferno, Over the Overseer is going to be the paid hand who'll get it down to 1 hour 15, I think. But Rachel, it sounds like you agreed with that slightly.
I do actually agree with that statement. Yes. Sorry. But
that's okay, Rachel. That's okay. For me, I think this has 2 of my favorite cliffhangers in Doctor Who. The ingenious one where I think it's episode 5 where that ends with the countdown. You know, the 5 and the countdown continues into the credits. The credits start with Doctor Who, John Pertwee and stuff, and the countdown is still going 2, 1. I thought that was an ingenious move. And the episode 6 cliffhanger, I think, is the best cliffhanger ever, where they're all standing there and the lava is rolling in. I will say, you know what? Also, Rachel, one of the 1,000 reasons why I love this, Greg Sutton has always been my role model in how to relate to women. He has. I've patterned my life after Greg Sutton. I don't wear the ascot, but I've patterned my life around Greg Sutton in this story.
Not a good role model.
Yeah, I just think obviously Inferno isn't my favorite story, but for Unit it gives them more to do, more variety rather than the samey. So, and they enjoyed it, and you can tell that they enjoyed it.
And
that's what's important.
I've just realised that TARDIS Spider, who obviously give us good news tonight, and has been a panelist on the show before. When he comes on, he's got his John Pertwee gear. He's a John Pertwee massive fan. I think, Terry, I'm going to have to get you on. Instead of saying the best unit stories, best master story, we might have to do the best Doctor story for each Doctor. So when it's John Pertwee, I'll have to get you on because he will have a lot to say. He's loving this today because we're talking about John Pertwee stuff. We don't have to. And you may find one of our panel doesn't list a John Pertwee unit story at all. Now, the next one
I wonder which one that is.
I can't imagine it all.
Out. Are you voguing?
This is my choice.
Oh,
yeah, brilliant.
You've got to pick. You've got to pick what hit you. Obviously, the dinosaurs backdrop was fine. I don't mind that there were Chewits monsters. I didn't care. The pterodactyl in the garage for me really got me.
Yeah.
But as I think Jeremy said with the spearhead, there were action sequences in this with Unit that I loved. You then had the problem with Captain Yates, who obviously went rogue, and so you had interesting dynamics within Unit to deal with, and then you had the Brigadier forgiving him really as we go through the era of Unit. So you know, I like that, and I love I love John Pertwee in this. I have to say, look at that gear, I love it.
Yeah.
I bet you Terry Price, you'd wear that, wouldn't you? That blue velvet, that is a good look. To me, this is my era of Doctor Who because I was just starting to watch it every week properly. John Pertwee was my Doctor, and it's this look. He's more bouffant, he's more silver, and so it was this period of Unit that got me. And it's a rip-roaring six-parter. And we're not just bogged down with one thing. As we all know, we also have a kind of parallel setup, a bit like Inferno, but in a different way, a trick. But this one got me because the Unit, they're up, I mean, I've got shots, they're up against these very dangerous plasticine dinosaurs and risk their lives in CSO. You had the Doctor doing gadgets to help them out. The Brigadier, you know, how the hell do we deal with this? They keep appearing in London, here, there, and everywhere. I mean, look how dangerous that looks.
There's a great scene where Sarah goes into the aircraft hangar or the big warehouse where the Tyrannosaurus Rex is on the floor, and she's taking pictures.
Yes,
and it comes to life, and then bangs its head on the metal bit, the metal roof. And it all starts caving in, and then the bit where it crashes out of the wall. That's just fantastic.
You see, while people criticise, you know, effects and everything, that shot there of Pertwee, Liz Sladen, and Nicholas Courtney, and they've managed in CSO to put a kind of, you know, model dinosaur on its side in the warehouse bit. I mean, for God's sake, this is 74.
Yeah.
That's great, and I have to say, it fired my imagination. And so you've got the monster. You've got the Unit team that you trust. You've got John Pertwee on top of his game. And yes, I know when you pick a Unit story, is it with Liz Shaw? Is it with Joe Grant? Is it with Sarah Jane? Or do we go further? Martha, etc., etc. So, you know, this just ticked a lot of boxes for me regarding action, a bit of intrigue, a bit of humor you see there with Benton. I just thought that a lot of the team seemed very human. And well, I think if I just disconnect.
I mean, and you know what's great? The shot in the top right. Whenever I see that shot in the top right, I just love it. This is Sarah Jane's first story with Unit proper, because Unit really only has it's only the Brig that has a fleeting kind of cameo in the Time Warrior. So this is her first story, you know, interacting with Unit for the entire story, and. I mean, it's written by Malcolm. It was the last story for Doctor Who written by Malcolm Hulke, who was one of the best Who writers ever. And, you know, his stories were always injected with this kind of moral gray area. Like, are the villains doing what they're doing for the right reason, or for reasons that can be understood if you kind of look at it from a certain point of view? And the thing about I always kind of flinch with the criticism of the dinosaurs in this, and I think and people over the years I've seen kind of use that as a way to write off the narrative, the entire story, which I think is a very lazy argument, because if you think about it, this is 6 episodes, it's 150 minutes, and go ahead and time it out. The dinosaurs are on screen for only about maybe 5 or 6 minutes of this entire story. So to use that as a way to kind of like write off this entire story as kind of bad or lame, I just think is lazy.
And Peter Harrington mentioned it. The Whomobile appeared. And, you know, I mean, it's a unit story. There's a bit of action. You get a bit of firing. You get some amazing monsters in your imagination. Some well realized, like the pterodactyls, some less so. But it's a damn good story. All of your favorite unit characters are there. One of them goes rogue. What else can you want? I won't drag it out, otherwise I'll win. That's not fair. So Sean, as you know, as you can see, is he there? Is he ready? Which is he going to pick? Because you know it'll have to have been something a bit more recent. So bear with us in the thread. You're going to judge us all. Which one's the winner? Here we go. Go on, Sean.
Which one? Well, yeah. Poison Sky, Santarum, Stratagem. Bold, I know. Because for me, I could have picked a classic Who unit story, but I would have been picking them out of the ones I'd seen, so that didn't feel very fair. So that's why I've picked the modern one. I love this story. I loved Unit. To be fair, it was a toss-up between this and the Stolen Earth, because I love what they're doing that, you know, with the Osterhagen key, and the fact that they basically stand firm as the Daleks are just taking them out, but they're basically like, we need to, ladies and gentlemen, we're at war. So it was a toss-up, but I went with this. I loved the side character, Ross. I loved the side characters that we got. You got the General and his kind of right-hand woman. It was just such a, you know, we got introduced to the Valiant. You had cloning, that classic kind of feel of, you know, Martha Jones's clone coming out the gloop. Donna Noble's absolutely brilliant in it. She goes to HR and basically kind of says to them, you should have gone and checked the workers out. And, you know, Wilf, a great, again, remember Cliffhangers? They did him in, you know, New Who as well. So you had the cliffhanger where the Doctor, great cliffhanger, Wilf stuck in the car, the Atmos system. That's a terrible inside joke. The Atmos system goes off and he's trapped in the car, and the Doctor stands in the road as the whole world chokes, billowing cloak. It is top tier. You know, that you know, RTD Who, it's absolutely, I love that cliffhanger, and I just love the whole story. The fact that something so simple like a sat nav was this malevolent that would be like, this is your final destination, and just like drive you into a river. Like, it's really simple but really effective. I loved what Unit were like, that the Doctor basically tries to tell him, you can't face up to the Suntarans, you're going to get slaughtered. And you know, I can look at these images, and again, you know, this is like my nostalgia for, this is my era of Who. I can hear the music that accompanies this just by looking at that floor. So good. you know, so because I mustn't forget that Russell T Davies in that first era, and with Torchwood as well, gave me some of the best sci-fi. You know, some really brilliant moments. So I can forever be grateful to him for that. And I'll leave it there in terms of like, because I love this era, you know, and yes, you know, you're younger, so you give it a lot of leeway. But, you know, this was the era where you used to get the Radio Times, or, you know, you'd try and see if there was something online, but it wasn't the same back then. And you'd look and you'd try and get snippets of what the stories were going to be, you know, and there was that reel and everybody was trying to figure it out. And it was just, you know, you thought, oh my God, you know, Catherine Tate's going to be in it, or stuff like that. It was great. Yes, the CGI is a little bit ropey, but, you know, the story stands up, and I picked this one because I remembered it. And yes, there's a few bits that you watch back now and you're a bit like, oh, it's a little bit, you know, the whole Santar Ha thing was a bit like, oh,
Yeah.
That's a bit cringy. But, I liked Luke Rattigan's character, not very likable, but the fact that Doctor meets a genius and he's very much like, it's been a long time since anybody said no to you, hasn't it? Like, there's some real, like, feistiness from the Doctor, and, you get the whole thing where this genius who's probably bullied all his life is saying that, we can go and build this new life, Rattigan's world, we can decide on the name. And the others stand around, they're like, you're sick, like, my family's out there. They are, they're out there. They need saving. But yeah, this was before Unit, degenerated into Kate Lethbridge Stewart turned up, and that was kind of it. So I did like, I love this story, and as soon as Brendan asked me, I picked it off the top of my head. Yeah, I've probably missed bits out, but yeah, and it was my first introduction to the Sontarans as well. So the fact they always had to face their enemy. I don't know if the porthole in the back of the neck was a modern invention or whether it wasn't. I'm not sure. No doubt I can go and find out.
So it's always been there. Yeah.
All right, cool. Oh, that's great. Yeah, of course it has. It's a good idea. No, it was. It was. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was just like Doctor Who at the top of its game. Really, I think that series is such a good series overall. And you saw Unit that they could make mistakes, but they tried to rectify them. And again, a nice little nod to the Brigadier as well. I think he's on holiday in Peru, because I think he cropped up in an episode of the Sarah Jane Adventures at one point. But yeah, it was, everything kind of linked in then, and it was. Oh, really? I didn't know Peter Harrington about the cloning tank. That's good to know. So yeah, good stuff.
So there you go. So we've had Spearhead, Inferno, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Claws of Axos, and the Poison Sky Sontaran Stratagem. What's your choice on the thread? What's your choice? And while you were thinking, did you click on subscribe? Might as well ask. The Probic event. I mean, it's a simple thing, and for a kid, you could understand it. In Time Rory, you could use an arrow. I don't like this. You can use a wok and whack on the back of the head. It's not me.
Johnny used a mallet, didn't she? I think she used a mallet in that story, if I remember rightly. Yeah, there's a brilliant shot as well. So just my last point, I promise. The bit where you talk about practical effects. There's a bit where the Sontarans are walking down, I think it's a hospital corridor, and the window's blowing, and they all hit the ground. That's such a good shot. I think it's a hospital. Yeah, brilliant. I love that. That was in all the trailers back then, and you were like, "Oh, this is going to be amazing." It was so good then.
So we've wrapped around the best unit story. We've looked at Pyramids of Mars. We've previewed the Empire of Death, and we've had a right rock and roll kind of discussion about the ratings. What more can we ask? What more can you ask? Subscribe. I'll be live tomorrow. Rachel, are you live? No, it's not about live. Are you uploading tomorrow? Yes, you are.
I have a video tomorrow coming out 4 p.m. I'm doing it mostly for the new Who fans. It is a Who is Sutekh video, so they have a good enough understanding. Not that
mine's going to be a little bit about RTD focus. You did an RTD focus the other day.
Yeah.
So yes. So Rachel's there. Upload. Look for it at 4:00 and give her a subscribe. I'm expecting tomorrow night she's going to text me saying I've hit 1K, and then I'll text her back saying I've reached 700. There you go. That's how we do it. So thank you, panel. Thank you, thread. That was brilliant. Bit of nostalgia. I'm going to rush through now. Good night.
Bye.
You know what's next.
Subscribe.
See you later.
Let's get a Vogue in. She does everything. She screams. Vogue. She's a happy bunny. She gets 1K tomorrow.
Will be.